Welcome to Mr. Podcast with Claude.
And Justin.
Hey, everybody. We are back to discuss the resurrection of one of the greatest film franchises of all
Okay.
time. Put a pregnant pause in there for no reason. And everyone's talking about it. You're probably talking about it. Everyone wants to know what it is that everyone's talking about. What is it, Justin? What is it? What
The
is
question
the
isn't what is the Matrix, but when is the
when
Matrix?
is the Matrix? Holy shit! 20 years later, we had the wrong W. Just like Twin Peaks season 3. What year is it? Um, Everyone's like, when Matrix is it? That didn't really work. Okay, so we're talking about the Matrix 4. Is it considered the fourth one? Is it like one of
Yeah.
those? Is it okay? In four? Okay.
I mean, they never
And
had numbers, so it has the same like title convent. The other two were like Revolutions and Re- Reloaded, I guess. So anyway,
yeah,
it's got that like structure. So I think it counts as the fourth one.
okay.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
just my opinion.
So yeah, I'm curious. Yeah, I'm sure it's got the four, but I was curious. Sometimes they do weird things that like that. Um. So yeah, I guess let's start with like the Matrix itself, the original three movies. We'll start with the first one, right?
Yeah, I don't think
I
we've
guess
ever
it's just
talked about the Matrix
yeah,
specifically. So yeah, we should
which
talk
is
about that a bit.
we've talked about everything else. How we yeah, the fact we haven't done a podcast on the Matrix is pretty funny. I guess there's not a lot to talk about.
Guess
But
not.
yeah, take that, Matrix. No, uh, Justin and I go way back. Um, we actually saw the original Matrix in the theater together.
Yep.
Uh, we actually saw the trailer for the movie, the
Oh
first
yeah, yeah, yeah.
trailer.
I wish I remember the movie where we saw the trailer, but anyway.
Oh man, yeah, I don't remember the movie where we saw the trailer. It wasn't forgettable. I mean, it wasn't memorable.
Yeah.
Because the trailer was one of the best trailers I've ever seen in my entire life. I was instantly hooked. I
Oh
immediately had to
yeah,
see this
yeah.
movie.
The hype was real.
It
Yeah.
was insane, and most of you may remember if you're old enough that one of the most interesting things about the marketing of the Matrix was it was marketed around the question, the central mystery of the film, what is the Matrix, was the big marketing angle. So when people went in to watch the movie, they didn't actually know what the reveal was about what the Matrix actually is.
Right.
Of course, no one can tell you what the Matrix is, although
Oh
Morpheus
boy.
spends literally 45 minutes of the movie in different ways telling him what the Matrix is, but no one can do it. And so one of the things that makes the movie so good is you started out on this really powerful mystery that the movie was going to answer this question that you didn't even know how it would relate to what the cool stuff about the trailer. You didn't understand how they answered the Matrix going to make any of that make sense, right? Or give it the right context to understand it. So yeah, the movie was phenomenal, blew me away. One of my favorite films of all time. I think one of the things about the first movie is that it manages to, in some ways, be this like um, the apotheosis of cinema. Like, or I should say not cinema, but like pop culture filmmaking. To me, there's this way where the first Matrix like is like this culmination of like, you know, uh, a century of filmmaking and pop culture, like all rolled into one. Where it captured the zeitgeist at the time. This idea that we were leaving the analog world, going into the digital world of the dot-com era. This whole the idea of what is your identity going to be in these new spaces, um, and control and the government and how that all works to stop technology and your voice and all that stuff. And I just thought like the movie, and then obviously all the philosophy stuff that's jam packed with. it just has so much going on, and then the martial arts stuff, and then the the like cutting edge of cinematic filmmaking at the time and all that stuff. Like the Matrix is an insane achievement, and so and I'm a big fan of the second and third one. I rewatched all three of them before I saw the fourth one. So yeah, I'm coming at at judging the fourth movie as a really big fan of the originals. Not like I don't think they're perfect. There's a lot of places that there could be improvement. But yeah, big fan of the original stuff. So yeah, Justin, tell us about your take on the original stuff.
Uh, yeah, I have a lot of things I want to. One thing I want to say specifically, since it's kind of a side note, is I specifically remember that you fell asleep during the scene where it's
Yep.
Cypher played by Joe Pantoliano, and he's like with Agent Smith in this restaurant. And something that struck me about that scene this time is like the way they just cut into it with no
Yep.
context.
Yeah.
Like there's a vague hint of a setup earlier, in the conversation that
With
he
Neo.
has with Neo, but I started wondering about the practicalities, like, because they show like when they're in the Matrix, like there'll be other people there like on the ship watching what they're doing and like
Yeah.
commenting on it, and I'm like, wait, he's jacked in through the ship, right? Like if someone walked in,
Yeah.
like they could
That's
just see what he
why
was doing, right?
Yeah, that's why he, was doing it late at night when everyone was sleeping,
Yeah,
and Neo startles him. But yeah, he's basically trying to load up, I think, a connection to the Matrix so he can go meet the agents.
right,
But
right.
yeah, if somebody, yeah, exactly, yeah, he was taking a risk for sure. If somebody woke up and looked at the feed and could see where he was in it, then they'd be able to see that he was meeting with agents. You know,
Yeah, I'm just surprised like they cut into it no context and they
yeah,
don't even cut out of it with context. It's
yep.
like I guess in a normal version of that story, I would expect that we would cut to him, we would see him like look around, sneak around, make sure no one's there, go to the, you know what I mean? Like I in
Yeah, because I think there's a little bit of a plot hole because there's no how do you jack yourself in, right?
a
you're unconscious when the jack goes in and out. So I
oops.
think that's why they're cutting around that. Also, who's the operator? Someone has
Yeah.
to call the thing. So if you're being generous, he'd have to set up some automated systems to make this thing work. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's why they're cutting around it that way.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess
Besides,
yeah.
like, they don't need to spend time on
Right,
how
right.
he's getting away with it.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't expect much, It's just interesting to me that there's like none of it, and you just get into that scene, and then you're out, and it's like, oh, he's a traitor. Like, okay, and then that's over. Anyway, that was just a specific memory because yeah, every time I see it, I think about that.
I Every time I see, yeah, I did fall asleep the first time I saw the original Matrix. Right, it wasn't for very long. It was on the part I consider the boring part, which was all the
Yeah,
talking after Neo gets rescued and a
yeah.
little bit of that early part. I remember waking up on the part where Mouse is talking about why chicken tastes like everything.
Oh, right,
And
right.
speaking of tricks, I always feel like, and maybe it's just the way my brain works with language, but I feel like I'm always bothered by the dialogue in that scene because I think the words aren't quite right. It's right for how they want to make the point, but it's not quite right with like what they're referencing. The idea that like chicken, like everything tastes like chicken.
Yeah,
So it's like that's the running joke of like, oh, if someone will eat fried alligator. Oh, this tastes like
yeah.
chicken. Or someone will eat
Right.
ostrich. Oh, this tastes like chicken, right? So the concept that we know is that a lot of other things taste like chicken.
Mm-hmm.
But the point that Mouse makes, the way they write it, is that chicken tastes like a bunch of other stuff. And it's a small difference.
Oh,
It's a small difference because they make the point that, well, I used to love Tasty Wheat as a kid, the cereal, but like, how do the machines know what Tasty Wheat tasted like versus like what I think it tasted like? And then it gets in the concept of them programming taste, having no sense of human taste, right? And so he
Mm-hmm.
goes, well, maybe that's why they didn't know what to make chicken taste like, so they made everything taste like chicken. Uh, no, that's what he says. They didn't know what to make chicken taste like, so that's why chicken tastes like so many things.
Right.
But that's not what chicken tastes like. Chicken doesn't taste like a lot of things. A lot of things taste like chicken. It's like
Right.
slightly different.
Yeah.
And I wish they would have said the machines were running out of, but you'd have to do some editing passes on the making this a succinct sentence, but like the idea of like they didn't know what to make. There's a bunch of foods that they had to program taste for, right? There's all these anything you can eat has a taste, right? Basically. So they had to program all these foods and they didn't know what it was a big problem. And they don't have taste buds. They don't know what to make all this stuff taste like. So I kind of wanted them to make it where the point was the machines cut corners and said, hey, listen, we already programmed chicken, right? We'll just use the chicken program for alligator and ostrich and everything else. So that's
Mm-hmm.
why these things taste like chicken because they figured out what they're gonna make chicken taste like, and they just like copied it for everything else. But like I don't know the way the dialogue goes, it's different. It's a slightly different point. Well, it's sort of the same point, but they get there a different way. I just
Yeah.
wish they got there my way. So
Fair enough.
that was a very pedantic explanation of. So anyway, I always remember waking up in the movie on that part
Okay. Yeah.
because that really stuck out to me that they were making a point about this. What do you even call that, right? I mean, that's some sort of like cultural running gag. I don't know what that is. Uh, is there a word for that? It's just some sort of cultural aspect that we sort of generally think about chicken tasting like things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's some kind of general cultural knowledge or idea or something. I
Yeah,
don't know. I
somebody
don't know
out
what
there
the
knows
word
what
is.
what that's called.
Yeah, there's got to be a word for that. I mean, I
Yeah.
see it as in the same category as like, oh, a deja vu is a glitch in Matrix,
Yes.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like a way of like contextualizing like a thing you're familiar
Yeah.
with and putting it in the context of like here's a way to interpret it as a thing from the Matrix.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah, actually, the deja vu thing doesn't work for me. If we're bringing that up, like, I don't know. Maybe I'm the only person who's like this. I can't speak for everyone's deja vu. My deja vu isn't a thing happens and then 5 seconds later the same thing happens. Like that's not that's not that's not deja vu. At least not what I'm used to. The
Yeah.
deja vu for me is like, didn't this happen like a while ago, a week ago, a month ago, and you're not really sure when, like if I literally just saw a cat, like I
Hmm.
wouldn't call that a deja vu. But
Yeah.
anyway, whatever. That's a
Yeah.
minor point.
It's this weird thing where it's very narrow in time, and because it's so narrow in time, it isn't quite what our experience of it
It
is.
is hard to convey that though. So I get like why they filmed it that way, because like the way it actually feels like would be trickier to come
I thought
across in a clear way.
I thought the new movie it not that I really ever had a problem with the deja vu thing because I kind of understood it the way they depicted it in the first movie with the black cat, but the way they showed it in the new movie made it even clearer what it looks like when something gets changed in the Matrix and why like a second version would show up a second or two later kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I thought it was a lot clearer the way they showed it this time. I'm like, oh, okay, I see why that would happen you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Yeah.
But I get your point that what we normally experience as deja vu isn't occurring in such a quick time period of
Yeah,
like.
because like you wouldn't be likely to forget. I don't know, like that you wouldn't have that. You would remember that you just saw that thing. I don't know, and then it's not deja. It's not
It's like
deja vu if you
it's
remember
deja
when you saw it.
vu. Well, it's deja vu. Experiencing the same thing twice is deja vu. Is what they're saying, but we know it as having this time element as well,
Mm-hmm.
where it's not very
Yeah.
quick.
I mean, if you take the literal meaning, it just means you've seen it before. But like, yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah,
whatever. It's a minor
yeah.
point. It's just because you brought up the chicken thing.
Yeah,
That
no,
that
we both
was
we both brought up the most minor points in the
that's
movie.
my nitpick about that thing. Anyway, yeah. So like my feelings about the Matrix are like a little bit, I don't know, all over the place. I mean, its impact on pop culture is undeniable. I think, the filming techniques, I mean, especially, I mean, just for me at least, there's actually a lot of stuff they do that's pretty cool. But for me, my favorite thing that they did in the original Matrix was the what do you call it? The like rotating camera effect, like the
Bullet
freeze.
time.
Does that count as bullet time? See, I'm confused about that because I feel like it's not the same thing as when he's like dodging the bullets and he's like leaning over. The specific shot I have in
Bullet time is when the camera is going super duper high frame rate and the action on screen is very very slow. That's what bullet time is.
Okay, so yeah, it's not that actually. It's the best example of it in the movie is like right at the beginning, the scene with Trinity,
Hmm.
when she jumps up in the air and then
Yeah,
the camera rotates. She's frozen. There's no
yeah.
movement at all. She's frozen
That's
and the
bullet
camera
time.
rotates.
That's bullet
Okay.
time.
Okay. See, I don't think of that as bullet time, but anyway,
Bullet time has nothing to do with bullets and bullets on screen. Yeah, bullet
yeah,
time
yeah,
is
yeah,
the
yeah. But I think of bullet time as involving movement of the characters, not only movement of the camera. Which actually, it's not the camera moving. It's
no.
they achieve it by having a bunch of cameras shoot the same thing, and then they just cut between them, and it gives this
Yeah.
illusion of movement.
Bullet time is just slow motion. Anytime it's like, well, there's the slow motion aspect, and then the extra technique that they added, of course, was like you're saying, the camera system where the camera could move
Yeah,
through shots.
there's a
Um,
name for that thing that I don't remember, but I think that effect in particular is super cool.
yes.
Like to start off the movie with that, like she jumps up in the air and then it goes
Yeah.
whoosh, and it's like, oh my god, this is like, this is like something I've never seen before. Like this is not standard
Yeah.
stuff that you see in an action movie.
So this is okay. So this is calling bullet time. I'm reading something. Both slowing down and the camera movement.
Okay,
So so
okay.
uh so it's a technique of doing both things, not just slowing it down. Okay.
Okay, okay, fair enough. I mean, it makes sense because they just want to talk about all the
Yeah.
specific
I
techniques
agree.
that they
That
do.
the opening of the movie I think the movie in general is almost perfect. I mean, like there, for what it's trying to do, yeah, I don't want to cut you off, but yeah, that opening is so good. And then especially when we get to Trinity, and I mean, immediately you're like, I don't know what I'm watching anymore because I've never seen a camera do this. And then the whole setup of like, Lieutenant, your men are already dead, and you're just like,
Yeah, yeah,
what are you talking about? And then yeah, the whole opening of Trinity's thing, she sets up the movie, yeah, so well.
yeah, yeah. It's a great opening sequence, and there's a lot of stuff there that if you're paying attention or you know where the story's going, like establishes some
Yep.
conventions that will come into play later. It's very packed. I mean, in general, the movies like that. It's like when you know what to look for, like there's a lot of clues in
Mm-hmm.
there.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, my original experience of seeing it for the first time was thinking like, oh man, I mean, this is the best movie ever. Like I was
Mm-hmm.
very taken by it. And so, I saw it in the theaters probably like 5 or 6 times.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but I had this thing happen where, like, the more I saw it, the more
Yep.
I sort of got tired of it or saw things in it that I didn't think were that great. And at a certain point, I was just like, I don't know. And I mean, I think if any of you have listened to the Marvel podcast, like like I I definitely have this thing with action where like it can kind of make my brain turn off or go numb or what. Like I get this thing where like almost disengage when the action scene starts and I'm just waiting because I actually enjoy the other
Hmm.
scenes. Now, the first one is kind of an exception because, like I said, that Trinity scene at the beginning is great, and I'm not immune to enjoying an action sequence when it's good. I just find a lot of times I don't know,
Hmm.
it's just like people jumping around and punching and jumping and shooting and and like glass breaking and walls breaking and I don't know, like it just all feels very
Much ado about nothing.
it was it was a problem I had with the pilot of Lost. Like when I
Hmm.
originally saw it, like it just felt too like pumped up action stuff, and like that's so anyway. Like I realized that like that actually was even though there are interesting ideas in the movie, like its primary mode, and not there's nothing wrong with this for the record. It's not really a judgment. It's just like a personal taste. Like it's just not, I like horror. Horror's got tropes. Some people probably think those are stupid, and I'm not going to tell them they're wrong, you know, but I like them, so I put up with them and they work for me, But it's just, yeah, some of those action tropes, like it got tiresome, and I started like disconnecting from it and thinking like, oh, maybe it's not that great. I don't know, because it's definitely very heavily action oriented, and so as I've gone back to it, like I appreciate it more, I think, than I did when I got like disillusioned with it for a period. Um, I will say that, like, I think to this day, like, and actually, we'll get to that with the new one as well. Like, my favorite part of the movie overall is the first part of the movie, where before you get into all the business with the Matrix and what it is and what they've got to do.
Hmm.
And, like, I just think there's so much cool stuff from that beginning. I like the mystery setup, the stuff comes on the screen and
So
there's
all
these
the stuff
mysterious
before he takes the red pill.
before he takes the red pill. Yeah, exactly. Like the
Hmm.
call and like I love like he's like, okay, you got to go out on the ledge and that's the only way to escape. And he goes out there and he looks and he's
Yeah,
like, nah, I can't do it. And they just take him. And I'm like,
yeah.
wow. Like I didn't expect like that's interesting. Like scenes don't usually end like
Well, what
that
I
in
but
action
what
movies.
but the reason that that works, besides being surprising in some sense, but it has to happen because that's basically his refusal of the call. For his hero's journey. Like he can't be ready to walk out on the ledge. It wouldn't make any
Right.
sense for where he's coming from. And then yeah, when he gets captured by the big bad guys, and you're like, wait a minute. Yeah, I thought, well, why would he get a call? Who's going to help him out of the situation if it didn't help him out of the situation?
Right.
So yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And then, they take him to the interrogation room and there's this thing where they make his mouth close, like shut.
Hmm.
His mouth disappears basically. And they insert this like bug thing. It's like a Cronenberg scene almost. Like they insert this bug thing in his belly button that's like gonna
Yeah,
track him or
tracker.
something. And it's really stuff that is kind of like absent from the rest of the series. Like I feel like the way the Matrix becomes, like it's really never like that again. And I really
Well, because
do
that's sorry.
I really do like appreciate that version of the Matrix. Like I find it to
Yeah.
be the most compelling, like and interesting like version of it. And yeah, it just I don't know. And these hackers and they're like,
Hmm.
there's this secret thing and you got to find out. I don't know. Like to me, like that really reels me in like more than
Hmm.
the later stuff. As far as the later stuff, I think probably the things about it that I like the most, like Lawrence Fishburne is like really good. I mean,
Yep.
all the actors are good for the record. I mean, I think even Keanu Reeves, like I gotta give him some credit. I think like he's really easy to make fun of because he has this persona, but like I do think he has a
He's
certain way of
yeah.
being that I think is pretty perfect for the part that he's playing,
I think
and
he nails
uh,
it. Yeah.
I
No
definitely
one else could have been
appreciated it
Neo.
more this time. But yeah, I feel like in the new movie even emphasizes this. Like Lawrence Fishburne has this like theatrical quality that brings this like almost gothic drama or something to
He
those scenes,
yeah.
which I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
is great. And I also like Hugo Weaving as Agent Smith. Like
Hmm.
his scenes later on, the monologue, like they called basically all the stuff they called back because it was so
Yep.
good. Anyway, that stuff is all like really good and really interesting. And Agent Smith in general, like I think you can see, why he's almost like the Ben of, the Matrix, where it's like, in a way, like he could have just been a functional character, but he ends up becoming this like
Yeah.
central thing. And it feels like it's propelled by how well the parts played. So yeah, so I really enjoyed that part of it. I think those are the things I liked the most about it. Um, like watching it again, that I think maybe um, I didn't fully appreciate the first time, because I was so focused on the. Oh yeah, there's one more thing I wanted to mention. There's a lot of exposition, as you mentioned. Like, I mean, I think you've pointed it out many times, and I do laugh every time I hear Morpheus say, "No one can explain, no one can tell you what the Matrix is."
Hmm.
And then that's exactly what happens. But I had this thought just because we talked about Tenet, and I think we talked about Christopher Nolan some in that, and like his especially his latter day movies like have a lot of like long scenes of exposition of like one character explaining to another character like, here's how this thing
Yeah.
works and here's how that thing works and this does this and that does that, and and like I often find that in those Christopher Nolan movies, the newer ones at least, like those scenes can be kind of tedious, like especially if you rewatch. It's
Oh yeah.
like it's like, oh god, I got to sit through this again. I think I have to give The Matrix some credit for making those long exposition scenes still pretty entertaining.
Yep.
It's
Hmm.
a
Totally
combination
agree.
of things that makes it work. But even though I know what they're gonna say, I do think those
Hmm.
scenes are done pretty well. So I feel like I have to give them credit for that because I feel like those scenes could be really tedious on a rewatch if they were done
Yeah.
differently. Uh,
I think there's some magic in exposition scenes where there's characters who, in terms of like what you're saying about when you're rewatching it and how it doesn't lose anything, it doesn't become too tedious. I think there's something when the character themselves are really discovering something that that's integral, that the exposition is integral for, um, versus a scene where there's just exposition because the character needs to know some information. So Neo, all the exposition about Neo being told what the Matrix is and all that kind of stuff is like we as the audience are want to know that information, right? And wants to know that information, so we're watching through his eyes as well. And I think it works a lot better than like in Tenet when, like for instance, one of the Michael Caine scene, right?
mhm,
Where they're just sitting at dinner talking exposition to each other, where it's
right.
like neither character needs to go through that exposition on for their journey. So I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm just pontificating here about why it works better, but I agree. I think a lot of the exposition stuff still works. And it's just, that's the other thing I want to say on the top of this is just like I'm a huge, 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 huge Wachowski's fan. Like their work and what Lana's done recently with Sense8 and some of the other stuff. Like I'm their target audience. Like I just really am. Like I love their voice. I love their filmmaking style. I love their action style. I love when they get dark and weird and twisted. They just go all over the place. Like if you haven't seen, like one of the things watching Matrix 4 was weird because if you've seen Sense8, you've almost seen the Matrix 4 because one of the things that struck me is like it came off like it felt like. Well, I watched it at home on my TV. Basically, I put it on my
Mhm,
projector, but I didn't watch it in the theater. But something with the budget and the styling of this movie made it feel like a TV show to me.
mhm,
And also the fact that it's almost starting a episodic adventure of Neo and Trinity. also makes it feel like, a 2.5 hour pilot for a TV show where they're just going to go remake the Matrix, and every week, there's some in-world story about characters in this new Matrix world. Um, but yeah, the only thing that I've seen the Wachowskis do that I have not been either a medium fan of or a very high fan of was Jupiter Ascending, and
Oh, okay.
now Jupiter Ascending. Now, and the thing about the Wachowskis too is they're so incredibly creative and inventive. Like Cloud Atlas, like whatever you have to say about that movie, it's a fucking inventive story. Like it's insane how much is going on in that story, and to be able to tell a story like that, you just have to be operating at a very high level. Same with obviously the Matrix. I mean, making one of the most seminal sci-fi films of all time, right? Just like, and then just there's to me, I love to find a good writer director. We talk about Christopher Nolan and we talk about David Lynch, and these auteurs, and people have these really strong voices we're attracted to and stuff like that. And I just think there's very few people like Lana Wachowski and her sister, like, who can do the stuff that they do on that high level. And it doesn't always land, but yeah, I wanted to set that up because like so much of what so I saw the Matrix 4 twice, which does not count as the Matrix 8. That's not how math works.
Mhm.
Um, and about math.
I
It
do.
doesn't work that way.
No.
And the first time I saw it, I had one reaction. The second time I saw it, I had a different reaction. But I don't know why I'm leaving my reactions as a mystery. But
Well, I wanted to say a few more things about the old movies before we moved into that. Um, so I watched it in the theater and I only saw it once, so forgive me if I'm not on the same level. You might have to help me out with some things that
sure,
happened. And like I'm just gonna go ahead and be honest, like 90% of what the Merovingian said I didn't understand. So anyway, he was just like
in
shouting
in the
stuff,
new
and I'm like, I heard some
oh
French
yeah,
words in there, and I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah,
okay, I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, I looked up the transcript, and I'm like, oh, that's what you're saying. Interesting.
yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, I probably didn't catch all the details. There's a fair amount. So yeah, you can help me along with that. Anyway, uh, so I just wanted to say, I guess one more thing I wanted to say about the original movie is like, I think maybe I want to say this because um, maybe I want to say this because the new movie focuses so hard on Neo and Trinity per se.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's a scene at the end of the first movie where, um, okay, no, I gotta back up more. So Neo goes to see the Oracle, right?
Yep.
And the Oracle says, "You're not the one, kid. Sorry."
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
It's a gangster oracle. Get out of here, kid. You're bothering me. See, you don't have what it takes to be the one.
I do really enjoy the Oracle, I have to say, but it's an interesting scene, right? It's like it's not really what you're expecting, but I guess that's part of the point. And later on, like Morpheus says, like she just told you what you needed to hear, or something
Yeah.
along those lines, right?
Yep.
Um, so like there's this thing where like Trinity went to see the Oracle, right? And that like there's like multiple lines like, what did the Oracle tell you? What did the Oracle tell you? Right? And you don't know,
Mm-hmm.
right? Long time, right? So
Yep.
then you get to the end and you know she's like, the oracle said that I would fall in love with the one, and so you have to be the one because I love you, right? That's what she's like. It's this whole
Yeah.
romantic scene, right? And I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking, yeah, the oracle said he wasn't the one, and and then Morpheus said she just told you what you needed to hear. It's like, what if she just thought you needed to hear that? Like, it doesn't necessarily mean it's true. I don't know. Like, it's just weird. It's weird to like hinge such a big thing on this character who's known to be manipulative and to tell like lies basically if those are the things that are going to serve the ultimate end goal. So like, how do you know what she told you is true but what she told Neo is false? Like, anyway, that was just
Mm-hmm.
that was just my
Mm-hmm.
reaction to that scene, because it's just like, well, the Oracle said it, so it has to be true. And of course in the story he is the one, so fine. It's
Well,
not like I don't believe it, but
I think the truth is coming from the fact that she does love him. So I guess in order for the Oracle to be lying, so the Oracle basically said, "You will fall in love with the one."
yeah,
Okay, so that means that in Trinity, if Trinity's in love with somebody, then that person's the one, and Trinity is in love with somebody,
yeah,
so that person should be the one.
right,
Now, the Oracle could be lying, and basically Trinity could fall in love with somebody who's not the one.
right.
And she just
And
said,
thinking that that's the one is what she needed to hear, just like with the, you know what I mean?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Like, why not? I mean, I don't think that's true, but like, why not? I don't know.
yeah, yeah.
That's just it just bothered me a
Well,
little bit.
I think sometimes the Oracle, but the Oracle does actually, can actually see the future or whatever,
Hmm.
uh, to some
Oh,
degree.
sure, sure, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so I think she's not always telling people what they need to hear, but or I should say she's telling people what they need to hear. Sometimes it's a lie and sometimes it's not.
Right, right, right. Well, that's all I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Yep.
Like it's like I believe it, but it's just weird to have like our
Well,
only
that's the
meeting
thing.
with the Oracle on screen. She's like, it's almost Damon Lindelof in a way. Like, our only meeting with the Oracle on the screen, she tells a lie in order to get because
Hmm.
that's what Neo needs to hear. But like,
Hmm.
then we're supposed to believe that, well, no, but the thing she told Trinity off screen was true. Like, I don't know, it's just strange, but like, I mean, it's fine. Yeah, I mean, I generally agree. Like, yeah, the orc, I mean,
Yeah.
she's a
Well,
program, like she's
and
part of the system.
she was right about Morpheus. She told Morpheus he'd find the one. He found the one.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Same with
yeah.
Niobe and all that in the second one. Yeah.
It's just, like there's a different version of the Matrix where like the Oracle's playing a long con on all of them, and like, I
Well, that's
just
what they
told
talk
you
about in
all
the
what you
second
needed
one.
to hear.
Yeah, that's what they talk about in the second one.
See,
Like, how
yeah,
can
I
you
was wondering about
trust?
that because I don't actually remember what even happens
Yeah.
with the Oracle
So
and
yeah, when Neo finds the Oracle in the second one, and realizes she's a program, he's like, "Well, the obvious question is, how can I trust you? You could be a part of the system and just, telling me what I want to hear for your
hmm
own, to
yeah.
for the control of the Matrix." And he goes, "Yep, you're right. That's it. You got it, buddy. You don't know if you can trust me or not. You have the choice to make, and guess what? It doesn't matter because you've already made the choice. You've come here not to. That's what the thing where the Matrix gets heady, where it's like five ideas on top of each other, and it's just like, not only do you not know if you can trust me, but that's not even the point. The point is you have a choice of whether you can trust me or not. But that's not actually the point, because choice is an illusion, and you've already made the choice. What's really the point is you came here to understand why you made that choice,
Right.
and then you're just like on the fourth level of like Inception here, of just like, huh?
Right. 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 Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so okay, so as for the second and the third movies, I rewatched the original like, I don't know, like 12 years ago, and I rewatched it this time, and both times I didn't have it in me to actually watch the second and the third one.
Gotcha.
Because like when I originally saw them, I found them very disappointing on a number of levels. There are some things I like about them, for the record, or at least
Yeah.
liked about them when I saw them originally, to be fair. um I was really intrigued actually by some of the stuff that happens in the second one, like the stuff
Mm-hmm.
with the architect and the stuff with
Mm-hmm.
like Neo having powers outside the Matrix, and the
Yep.
stuff with Agent Smith
Yep.
coming
Coming to
into
the
the
real
real
world,
world, but none of
which
that
they all
really
died
goes
soon.
anywhere. So I don't know. By the end of the third one, I was left kind of feeling a bit hollow about it all, and I haven't been able to actually. So I don't know. If I watch them again, I might feel differently, or at least notice different things or something. I mean, that
Mhm.
that tends to happen. So
Yeah, give it a shot.
um,
It's been decades. I really
yeah,
like the second and third one. I There's some tedious parts in both, but for the most part, I really do enjoy the second and third one. The second one has probably my favorite fight scenes, but obviously like you were saying, you don't necessarily get off on the action. I get off on
yeah,
the action a lot. So the second one has like the big scene with Neo versus like 100 Agent Smiths.
yeah,
Insane. I love it.
yeah.
I could watch that all day long. And then Neo fighting the people at the mansion again. One of my just fucking brilliant choreography and action. And I generally like the story. I was disappointed originally when the second movie came out, and I saw the whole storyline with the architect, and I didn't really like how that played out. And I'm still a little not upset, but like what's I don't know what the word is. There's just like the whole idea that what the architect said, like, listen, there's this door, you go
Mm-hmm.
there, you can reset Zion and
Yeah.
save humans, or you go through this door and the Matrix will, be purged immediately, blah blah blah. And like he was wrong, not wrong, but it just didn't happen the way
It
he
was
said it was
kind of
going to happen.
bullshit.
It was
Yeah.
just kind of bullshit. And one
Yeah.
of the things I kind of like about having the fourth movie out now is it makes it, and we see basically, I guess, something like a seventh iteration of the Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
But what I like is you get to see that the architect was just a program, and Neo got, it's like a video game where you get to the boss, right? Like you get to Bowser or something in this game, but like you realize there's other levels and there's a sequel to that game, and you know what I mean. There's other bad guys and there's other villains, and I prefer I like it. I like the architect story a lot better when he's not the end all, when he's not the creator of everything that's important in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the way he came off when we first meet him, that's what it seemed like. He obviously looks like God, right? Like you
Yeah.
feel like, oh well, there's no higher entity than this,
Right.
and this is all we get is this guy, and then it's like a dead end, and he just gets sent
Yeah.
back, and so that felt anticlimactic, and I didn't really like that. But that's my understanding of how those scenes and that story fits into the world has changed over the years, so I don't mind it as much in terms of like what's really happening there, and this whole idea of the one being a version of control and all that kind of stuff. And then the war with Zion, the war and all that stuff. I really like a lot of the ancillary characters that show up in the third one, and all the stuff of trying to protect the dock, and all the like mindless war action stuff. I really like
Yeah.
that stuff too. So yeah, I like the trilogy overall. I'm a big fan overall. I do think the first one stands out as a monumental achievement on its own. That it didn't need the other two, but I do like having them to complete the set and to get the end of the
Yeah.
story. Uh, but yeah, so you want to talk about the new one?
All right. Sorry. A couple more things I just want to say real quick. The thing I like about the architect scene is the idea that the one is a function in the matrix in a way that has
Yeah.
happened before, and they
Yep.
show video of it, and it's like it's a cycle. We have
Yep.
the one pulls people out. There's a Zion. We destroy a Zion, we reboot the Matrix, we start over, and we
Hmm.
just repeat. And we've done this before, and we're going to do it again. Like, I thought that was a really interesting development
Yeah.
on the idea. So to me, like, that's what made the architect scene interesting. The choice thing really doesn't work. I agree with that 100%. But yeah, that's what I liked about it. And then I think the other thing I wanted to say about the originals before we go into the new stuff is like For all of my disappointments in what happened, I mean, the original third movie, the ending was very definitive. I mean, imagine
Hmm.
like Lord of the Rings Resurrections. It feels like on a similar level. Like Neo dies, Trinity dies. Like it's like, the Zion is saved. There's
Hmm.
a peace between the machines and the humans. It's like, how much more? I mean, it's like not. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
that every single problem is solved, but it is a very definitive conclusion. And so, I
Yeah.
was really, really skeptical
Yep.
about the idea of making a new movie, because it just seemed like, how is this not going to be ridiculous? How is
Hmm.
this going to
Hmm.
be
That's what
how
excited me. That's
how
how I
is
get excited when it's like there's no way you can make a sequel. So like if you're making one, like you found a way to do
so like I saw this quote when I was reading the Wikipedia page,
it.
from Lana Wachowski, saying, "I couldn't have my mom and dad, yet suddenly I had Neo and Trinity, arguably the two most important characters in my life. It was immediately comforting to have these two characters alive again, and it's super simple. You can look at it and say, okay, these two people die, and okay, bring these two people back to life, and oh, doesn't that feel good? Yeah, it did. It's simple, and this is what art does, and this is what stories do. They comfort us, and they're important." Anyway, when I read that, I'm like, okay, if like it's therapy for you to just like bring characters back to life, like, I get it. I have nothing against that. I will say I was not super convinced by the way they were brought back. It was a little clunky to me. Like, it just seems like, well, how else are we gonna do this? I mean, we're just gonna have to say they survived. So, oh well.
Yeah, I didn't. I don't really mind the how are they back because I thought now Trinity died. Well, see, to me, this is my suspension of disbelief for this isn't that hard to surmount because it's a super super duper high tech world. Uh, Neo was already in the Machine City, the most valuable tool, right? Like without him stopping Smith, the Machine City was or civilization was threatened. They wouldn't just like let his body go. Like to me, it made sense like how they picked up on it and go, okay, we're gonna keep this guy in stasis or we'll put him back in whatever, like we're not just gonna go bury his body. Like I never thought that. Like at the end of the Matrix 3 when we see Neo dead on the little machine raft flying out, off into the sunset. Like I didn't think, oh, they're gonna go bury him in the ground now. I'm like, they're gonna do experiments on him. They're gonna see why he was the one. They're gonna see what all that kind of stuff. So to me, it wasn't that big of a deal of a leap to be like, oh no, he's still alive somehow. And then of course they explained it a bit in the new movie with just some of the like rebuild, things they have to do, medically to rebuild or keep them alive and stuff like that. So that didn't bother me. No, that didn't bother me at all. If it there's other endings where I would have had a bigger problem, But the fact that his body was still intact and stuff like that, um, if they had like burned to bits or something, or like whatever, maybe I would have had a bigger hurdle with it, but it was fine to me.
It's not like out of the question of, I mean, it's like, you see a character fall off a cliff or whatever, like,
Yeah,
there's always a
yeah,
possibility that you could bring him back. But the narrative tells you that those characters are dead, even if, practically, like, there's a possibility that they're still, like, if they're still alive, they should have told us that. It just, I
but
don't
they're
know. To
only
me,
dead. But they're only the narrative only tells you that they're dead because that's what that narrative job is to do, right? Like, but if you have a second narrative, then that narrative's job is to bring them back.
well,
Like
yeah, but then it
and that's what
undermines the impact of the original thing, because,
yeah, yeah. I mean,
now it's
that's the
like,
risk. I mean, that's the risk of continuing a story. I agree. Yeah, I mean, but I think that's the thing though. Like stories don't really have an end; they just stop being told, right? the end of Lord of the Rings, the story keeps going. I mean, if you wanted to tell what happens to Frodo when he leaves Middle Earth, you could, right? And to your point, it could undermine the end of the story
Yeah, yeah,
by
and I
doing
think it
that.
would
But
because I think stories should
yeah,
end sometimes. I mean, that's
oh, I
part of
completely agree that
their
story should end.
function. I don't think
I
all stories
completely
should go on
agree.
forever.
I don't know anyone who wants all stories to go on forever. But I'm saying, like, they theoretically can. All endings are artificial, right? They can make sense, but they're still artificial. And so yeah, so I mean that, but yeah, I agree. Like that's the risk you take by like opening it back up and playing with the characters again. And but it
Yeah,
seemed very clear to me that she wanted not only to where you mentioned the quote, but she wanted to sort of reframe the original story, and sort of not really retcon, but like I feel like add to the conversation to go, oh, that thing we made all those years ago, yeah, let's talk about that again. And I think there was a lot of things in the new movie that I felt like was a checklist of like, we should have done this differently, or now that it's 20 years later, we this is how this type of story should go now.
yeah,
Um, so some of that I had more of a problem with than like, um, you know, how they were able to sort of start this new story. And I did think that the okay, well, I'll leave it there.
yeah. I mean, it didn't really like bother me that much watching it because I already knew going in, like, they're bringing back Neon Trinity, so whatever it is, it's gonna undermine what happened in the third one, at least to my
Mhm.
eyes. So, like, I already had made my peace with that. So it wasn't the biggest deal, but just to say,
Yeah.
like, yeah, it was like, okay.
Plus,
Um,
the Matrix is all about cycles. It is all about things going and coming back. So I think in that way
True, but
too,
the
it
previous
is
ones were
thematic.
not. They kept the one alive, right? Like, that's not what we're supposed to
Well, that was
believe,
the first,
right?
but that was the first time that the one ever chose to do what Neo did.
Yeah, of course. I'm just saying, like, it's not the same as the previous cycles. Like, it's different in a
Well, that's
number
the
of
whole point.
ways.
That's what I've come to like about the story of the Matrix is that it's not perfect. Well, I don't mean the people writing the movie didn't write it perfectly. I mean that there's messiness in the way they depict how the Matrix goes on, right? The stuff that the architect talks about, right? First, we built the perfect world, and humans like didn't like it, and we lost all these crops, right? Like
Right.
it's all this trial and error stuff that they keep doing as they iterate through all of this. So in that way, I've come to kind of like that, to see like that they make mistakes and the machines aren't perfect and the machines aren't even all unified, about what they should be doing, and like, and that was the thing that was hard for me to understand when I was really watching the movies is like, well, how is Smith not under the control of whatever controls the Matrix, and why
Hmm.
can't they just do this and why can't they just do that? But they try to really make the world have less of those constraints and be more real. Even though it's a machine world, these machines are sentient, so that they don't necessarily they're not the Borg, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and we want them to be the Borg sometimes, but they're not the Borg.
Right. Right. Yeah, actually, I think all of that stuff is really interesting. There was that Animatrix
Yeah.
anthology, and that had like this one part where they gave the backstory for the original like machine rebellion and
Yeah.
like how the war started, and like I thought all that stuff was really interesting.
Yes.
I think the story is set up in a way where it doesn't really have time to delve deep into what's going on the machine side of things. Like,
Yeah.
we get these programs, but they're like individuals
Mhm.
in a way, like they're doing their own thing. So we,
Hmm.
the wider sort of outside the matrix machine world is left a bit vague. And I enjoyed that part. I think that context is really interesting.
Hmm.
I guess what I should say about the new movie is like my favorite thing about the new movie, and I hate to be a broken record, but it's like the first part of the movie.
Uh-huh.
Like,
Okay.
I think this is, I guess I'm a broken record or something, like always feeling this way. I liked in the original Matrix, the first part of the movie where there's this intrigue and
Yeah.
it's like
You like
hackers and a
setup.
mystery
Yeah, you like the setup
and
of stories.
the and there's like the agents and like what do they want and what are they doing and like um in the new one, like it goes into this mode in the first, like, I don't know, 20 or 30 minutes or so, of where it's like it's like Wes Craven's New Nightmare, or so. It's this meta commentary
Yes.
on the original Matrix. They
Yep.
put Neo as a video game developer who like made the
Yep.
original Matrix movies into video games, and like people know about them, and so they get to like talk about them
Yeah.
and comment on them, and we get all this like
Well, and there's
interesting.
2 levels of that too, so that yeah, there's the in Matrix world level of that, and then there's the second level where Bugs is at, where she's in the real world knowing the history of the real thing. And so they're commenting about the whole, she knows the real history. So she's commenting about our version of the Matrix being movies in the context of her real history, where the Matrix is the thing that actually happened to Neo, in the context of him in this world where he's a programmer faking it like what happened was really a video game. So it's extra complex there.
There, yeah, no, there's a lot, and there's also the level of he has this new video game. I didn't quite understand the
Oh, the
terminology,
modal,
but
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, the modal thing, which was not the game, which wasn't the original game, it wasn't the new game, and it
yeah,
wasn't the game he's actually working on, which is called Binary. So
right.
there's several parts of this movie that like are like has this level of complexity that's really funny to me. I'm just like, wow. I wanted to say real quick that this movie reminded me a lot of Adaptation. It
Oh
felt
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. Adaptation's a perfect example of the thing.
yeah,
Yeah, that weird,
the
self-aware meta
artist
commentary
the
stuff.
artist talking about making the art and this
Yeah,
adaptation,
their own shit.
it's
Yeah,
like acknowledge this awareness of the original and how that affects the new thing that's coming out.
yeah.
I think, yeah, I was thinking the only thing that would have made this whole meta thing more poignant is if we lived in some universe where um, uh, Keanu Reeves himself was the writer director of The Matrix. Like that's the only next
Mhm.
step that could have
Right,
made this
right.
meta thing even more
Yeah,
meta. Um,
sure. Yeah,
they were like one step away
yeah.
from the main character being the
Then it really
artist.
is adaptation.
Yeah, yeah,
If they actually cast like, yeah, like but I yeah, or Cabin in the Woods, like I really I'm a sucker for a story like that.
hmm
I really enjoy that, and I would have been happy actually with a whole movie in that mode. I would have been
yeah,
happy if they just did this whole movie where like there's no action at all, and it's just like this weird. And also like he sees Trinity in the coffee shop, right? And like there's a little bit of a like almost a Lost Highway or a Twin Peaks kind of thing where it's like, oh, we know each other kind of, but we don't really, like, it feels like we know each other, but maybe not, like,
yeah,
like if they were able to just like kind of hover in that place, I think, like,
yeah,
and never reveal like what's really going on, like I think that I would have I that's the movie I was kind of hoping we were going to get as
mm,
the first part, developed. I was like, "Oh my god, like this is way better than I was expecting. Like this is super cool. I didn't think they were going to do this stuff." you know. But once the other shoe drops, like
They don't
I
have
did
the screen time to stay. I agree. I think there's a version of the movie where we start with Thomas Anderson. We start from his perspective. We start with him going to work, just like Neo in the original movie. And like, there's a mystery, like, what are we watching? And then we
yeah,
see that the Matrix is a game, and we have no idea what that means. How the hell is the
yeah,
Matrix a game? And we don't get the
yeah,
commentary from Bugs, which while it's giving us another part of the story, it's also validating to us, or to say it's giving us a particular context to understand the video game
yeah,
stuff.
right.
Whereas if they had not given us that context and just dropped us into the Thomas Anderson story, and then we would have gotten just 30 minutes of Thomas Anderson being a guy who made a video game called The Matrix, and he's just living his normal life. He's obsessed with this woman at this coffee shop. We know it's Trinity. We know who these people are, but like but he doesn't know, and it's just him having to work on the new game or something, right? And it's
Yeah,
not this action stuff. I agree. There's a version where like he spends more time like kind of kind of in a hell in a way, like he's in working on this game. It's not going well. He's
yeah.
in
You know, it's
the
almost like
hell.
Flash Sideways
Yeah,
ish as well.
and then if they would have, and then as he's having a problem working on this game, binary, right? Then we see him get obsessed with this matrix modal, right? And then we see him programming, you know, Morpheus and all the stuff in the Matrix. And if we had spent, and then later we get like Morpheus coming and the action starts. Yeah, I think another like 15 minutes of just the normal world of Thomas Anderson could have really, really worked, because on the backside, I think what I felt was missing from the Trinity Neo story was I didn't get that sense of like, God, I can't think of the characters who do this on a little bit Sun and Jin, but like, I mean, Sun and Jin is big for this, but like that idea of, when it's like, oh my God, we've got to see these two characters back. They were split apart
Right.
in this horrible way, and all I
Desmond and
care about,
Penny.
Desmond Penny, all I care about is these two people coming back. So if the original Matrix trilogy had ended where Trinity and Neo were ripped from each other in some horrible way, and we were, the only, like the end of Titanic or something, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Where we love the movie, we love the ending, but gosh, we just wish they could have gotten together, right?
yeah,
That's the tragedy, right? Well, the original Matrix didn't end like that. It wasn't a tragedy like that. Like Trinity's death was a sacrifice, and we were at peace with that. And then Neo's death was a sacrifice, and we were at peace with that. It wasn't like we left the movies really wanting them to be together.
right.
Oh, if only, you know what I mean? If only Neo and Trinity could have ended up together. Like that wasn't the point of the movies.
No, yeah, definitely not.
Their
Yeah,
love story was a part of the journey, but it wasn't the point of the movies. And so I felt, anyway,
yeah,
in the fourth movie, I feel like their love story is the point. And
yeah,
so that's the thing I feel like, just on the list of things I didn't like as much, was I didn't feel as connected to like being so invested in seeing them together as much as the movie was invested in wanting me to be invested in that,
yeah, 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 yeah,
if that makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, I see your point. I actually feel like the first movie leans on the romance a little harder
Yeah.
than the latter two, and so it felt appropriate to me from just seeing the first one. And
Hmm.
I do think like there's it's a little bit like the Flash Sideways and Lost, where it's like I feel like there's a bit of a bias towards the first movie in terms
Yep.
of what they reference and what they
Oh,
talk
yeah.
about. I mean, they talk about some stuff from the later movies, but like a lot of what they talk about is stuff from the first movie. Like having just watched it, it was like very striking how many
Yeah.
references they made to the first movie.
Well, it's just
Um,
yeah, same. We noticed that pattern with Lost, where it's like when they reference something, it's always in season one. Huh?
yeah,
That's where
yeah,
all the most foundational stuff happened.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, that's like those are the touch points that they sort of keep coming back to. And so anyway, I feel like, if you just think about the first one, like the romance is like a little stronger, I think. And so it
Yeah,
sort
I
of
agree.
works better from that point of view. Um
Yep.
yeah, I wasn't per se invested in it, but yeah, it didn't, I don't know. I guess that didn't bother me as much. What can I say?
Hmm.
I was okay with that because it sort of felt in keeping with what I had just watched, and and I also like sort of liked the idea. Like, yeah, I mean, you said 30. I could have a whole high concept third movie, like fourth movie where like they never tell us what's going on, and like Neo
Hmm.
becomes convinced he's really Neo, and he tries to convince Trinity to go with him, and she's like, "What?" Like
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
I could have watched that movie and been like, wow, I can't believe they did that. And there's like very little action, or the action is very muted or whatever. Like, I don't
Hmm.
know. But that's just me and my crazy. They didn't want to do that. Obviously, they didn't
No,
want to do that.
they've never written anything
Um
like that.
yeah, to be fair, I haven't actually seen a lot of the Wachowski stuff. Besides the Matrix, I did watch Bound in the '90s,
Hmm. Hmm.
which I think is sort of different from. I think it had some camera stuff that was sort of Matrix-ish, but it's like a noir thriller-ish kind of movie. It's in a
Hmm.
different mode. It's not sci-fi, basically, is what I'm saying. Which
Yeah.
like sci-fi has been like the main thing they've done since then.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm not as familiar with that whole thing that
Hmm.
they do, I guess.
Yeah,
So my only touch point is Matrix.
they have a whole thing that they do.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, I would. I mean, I'm a big fan of Sense8, the TV show. I think it's really, 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 really good. It's yeah, it's totally worth
Is it better
watching.
than La Brea?
It's a lot better than that. It's a lot better than that. Yeah, Sense8
I had a
is
feeling.
really yeah. I just think they come up with original stories. That's it's just this
Yeah.
like original
I
classic
mean, that's an
original story.
achievement of the Matrix that's like
Yeah.
undeniable. It's an original story that, it feels like it should be an adaptation of something, but it
Well,
isn't.
it's an original story, but it's also this like meta. It's got this like it's also like a culmination of all stories. You know what I mean? It's the
Yeah,
Jesus
yeah,
Christ
yeah, yeah.
story. You know what I mean?
It's
It's
using
not.
classic tropes, definitely.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's got this thing where it's being the details make it really specific and different, but it's also like saying something larger that you can kind of identify with, and
But
I think
those details really matter to me, like Star Wars has the hero's journey,
hmm.
but I find the Matrix way more compelling than Star Wars,
Yeah,
even though it hit a lot of the same story beats,
yeah.
just because the context is more interesting to me at least, and the characters as well.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I thought, like I said before, the original Matrix I thought really was a milestone for, pop culture, for cinema, like just as a singular piece of like, here's how humans are right now. We made this. I felt like the fourth one did a very similar thing where it had this quality of being like I saw 15 other franchises in this movie. Like, seriously. Like, it's got an Aliens thing. It's got Avatar. It's now that they've got the sentience, it's Star Wars. It had the zombie tropes by the end of the movie.
Mhm.
A Terminator. I'm telling you, I just kept seeing other things in here, and what was amazing me was how it was integrated in an organic way. And it didn't nothing like stood out and was like, oh, that's just okay. Now you're just stealing the thing from Star Wars. Okay, yeah, this doesn't feel right here. Like, because when I saw a thing like that in Star Trek Picard, I was like, oh, this is boring. This is not working. You just ate something you saw from some other franchise, you know. But I felt like this was like a magnificent like jambalaya or something of just like so many different action, sci-fi, fantasy tropes and ideas rolled into one movie, and then that movie being meta, talking about itself and movies. You know what I mean? I just thought when I first saw The Matrix 4, I was really, really blown away. I thought it was spectacular. I was like, I had no idea what to expect. I didn't see any trailers. I did like you were saying before, like how are they going to start another story? I had no idea how they're going to do that. I went into it cold, and I went into it just thinking like this is amazing. You just get a fourth Matrix movie out of nowhere. Okay, cool, that's fun. Uh, and what the movie was about, I thought I was like, this is so insane that this is what the fourth Matrix is about. Like this, like you said, the whole thing with the new version of the Matrix, and Neo's living there, and he thinks he's losing his mind. Oh, Scanner Darkly. I mean, it doesn't help that
Mm-hmm.
he was starred in that movie too. But like,
Right.
there were so many things this movie was like touching on. I was just like amazed, like how it was pulling little bits out of all of these other things that I like, and using a little bit of that, and using a little bit of this, and using a little bit of that, and it all felt cohesive. It also reminded me of Terminator Genesis, because that's another movie where it's uh, a number in a franchise. It also is a lot about calling back to the original, showing some of the scenes from the original, replaying some things from the original. But it also had a meta thing going on too, and I felt like was a similar level of success on like what it was trying to do uh, in that realm. But yeah, the first time I saw the Matrix Resurrections, I loved it. I was like, this is amazing. The only thing I would say in my first watch, uh, we will probably spend a lot of time talking about it, was just some of the stuff with Trinity at the end. Some of the way they were trying to elevate Trinity as the equal hero, I thought was a little awkward to me sometimes, for some reasons I want to talk about. Um, but then when I watched the movie again, so what do you think, Justin? Do you think I liked it more or less the second time?
uh, I mm, I would expect that you liked it more the second time.
Final answer?
Yes.
I liked it less the second time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I liked it less the second time.
That's how I felt about the first one. Anyway.
But yeah, so anyway, those are my big thoughts. And I'll talk about why I liked it
You liked it
less
less
the
the second
second
time.
time.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't watch it a second time, so I don't know. Yeah, I can't really say how I would feel about it the second time. I mean, I probably would like it less the second time for various reasons, but I don't really know that. So anyway, um, yeah, I think the other thing about the movie that didn't thrill me was like most of the new characters. Like I
Mm,
found like most of the new characters like kind of underwhelming. Like they
yeah,
were fine, but
yeah,
like especially the big ones,
yep.
the new Agent Smith was like not even close to as good as the old one, in my opinion.
I
Um,
mean, not even. I mean, there's like here and there's the moon. I love Jonathan. I love that actor, Jonathan Groff. He's great. He's really good. I think he did a good job, but he's no Hugo Weaving. And to call this
yeah,
man Agent Smith is an insult to Agent Smith. Uh,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, and I want to unpack that because I don't even understand how he's Agent Smith. Like, I barely understand what the movie is telling us about what that means that he's Agent Smith. Like, do you know what that even means?
I mean,
Because there's he's Agent Smith, but he's not Agent Smith the way Morpheus is Morpheus, or the way Neo is Neo and Trinity is Trinity.
yeah, I mean he's put there by the machines, I guess. Whereas
Well,
Morpheus is
no, he wasn't.
He wasn't?
No. Well, I guess which machines are you talking about? Like the analyst didn't. The analyst might have put that person in, in as Neo's boss, but didn't that person wasn't Smith before? Like he became Smith.
Uh okay.
He wasn't like Agent Smith the whole. He wasn't like a Smith the whole time. Neo has been in this fake world of being the game developer.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
assumed he was.
No, 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 no. He sort of became Smith through Neo waking up and getting out, and sort of trying to bust out of the Matrix.
I just
And
thought he
so,
revealed himself as Smith once he woke up. But he made that speech. I don't know.
yeah, no, because he it wasn't until that's in the speech he basically says like something. It's like the same parallel of in the original movie where like Neo like jumps into Smith's body at the end, and then something with their interaction allows Smith to replicate in the second movie and become the threat that he becomes. Like they have this parallel thing that the movie tries to showcase a lot. So it's like once Neo in the new movie basically wakes up, like that somehow allows Smith. So the way I am having seen the movie twice, the way I'm interpreting is there's some old remnant code of Agent Smith out there somewhere in some systems, and then at some point it gets into the matrix, which is it's just a program. It gets into the matrix and then starts to inhabit that Jonathan Groff character, like takes over its body basically. That's the way it comes across to me, um, and it's weird
Okay. Okay.
because I don't know why. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I should read it. Maybe does the transcript say maybe there's like a synopsis that says what we're supposed to think about that Smith character.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what I'm
yeah,
saying.
yeah. There might be. There might be. It's
Because that was the thing that was just one of the things that confused me watching the movie is okay, how is this more like what does it mean that he's Morpheus? And it took me to the second rewatch to even understand what we even saw with him, right? Because he says, hey Neo. Okay, so we know about the modal, right? The whole point was that Neo was I guess somewhat realized he was stuck in the matrix and needed a way to break himself out while still being a blue pill, right? Uh, and so he wrote this modal, which is a program that trains an AI for a particular goal or level of intelligence or something. So he creates this old matrix program, which is supposed to, I guess, train Morpheus, get Morpheus AI to the point where he realizes that he is Morpheus and that he needs to escape and find Neo, right? But we see that character start out as Agent Smith, right? He shows up in that replay Trinity scene as Agent
yeah,
Smith, and so he tells us later when they're in the dojo fighting, he says, "Yeah, Neo, you coded me as the two most influential people in your life, basically Morpheus and Smith.
yeah.
Two and one. It's like you took a shortcut somehow.
Now,
Like you didn't have time to do two people, so but okay, so and then I was like, but I don't understand. Like, when was he Smith? Like, where did we ever see this character be Agent Smith? Like, why did they even tell us that? Why didn't he just say, yeah, you programmed me to be Morpheus because Morpheus is the one who made
mm-hmm.
me wake up from the Matrix because that's all I need to do here, right? Like, but then I remember the beginning of the movie where he was Agent Smith,
Yeah.
and so he's like being Agent Smith, but he's not really Agent Smith because that's Jonathan Groff's character. He's going to be the real Agent Smith. So this
Yeah, it's
guy
not the real Agent
is not
Smith.
the
It's
real
the
Agent
version
Smith.
of Agent
There's
Smith.
this
Yeah.
other version, but then he realizes, like when he's fighting bugs, he's like, "Wait, no, I'm not Agent Smith. I'm Morpheus." And it's like, what? Wait, now are you Lawrence Fishburne Morpheus? His consciousness is somehow in a system somewhere and has now come here? Is that how you're Morpheus? No, that's not how you're Morpheus. But I think that's how Agent Smith is Agent Smith, and how Neo is Neo, and Trinity is Trinity.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Well, Neo and Trinity's bodies are still alive. I don't know
yeah,
about Morpheus. Morpheus is a little ambiguous. I've heard some varying reports about
but
that. There's apparently some outside like possible canon stuff where they said Morpheus died.
mhm,
I mean, he doesn't die in the original movies, but
yeah.
um, and maybe wasn't brought back to life. I mean, I don't think he died with the machines. Anyway, I don't actually even know that much about that, so I can't say for sure.
Mhm,
But yeah, I it's like he's Neo's idea of Morpheus
mhm.
slash Agent Smith, which is it's
But
weird that
like,
they put that in there.
I don't know why the slash Agent Smith. Now there was a thing
I
in the
don't
beginning
either.
where he was like, I'm programmed to detect sentience and destroy them, but like he's a sentient, it's like
Yeah,
so now it's Blade Runner. Um
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
and so I'm a little still confused on that part. But yeah, I don't, the whole thing where he's like, I'm Agent Smith now, and it's like he saw the gun, and it's a whole transformation scene. It's in slow motion where he sees the gun, and he's like, oh shit, oh now I'm Agent Smith, and then it was like a thing that I didn't like though, besides how confusing it was he didn't have any Agent Smith agenda. Agent Smith wasn't
yeah,
just a bad guy. Agent Smith had a fucking agenda. He wanted to get out of the
yeah.
Matrix. He wanted to
Right.
destroy it. So to get out of it, he was locked, Man in Black Lock from Lost.
Yeah, yeah.
He wanted to leave the prison he was on and go home
Right.
somewhere, a home he had never been to, right?
Yeah.
And so what I wish is they would have kept that. I wish it would have still been like, and I wish that he was like, hey, analyst, that's why I'm attacking you on Neo's side, is because you're standing between me and escaping the Matrix. I still want to escape the Matrix.
Yeah.
And so on the one level, Jonathan Groff didn't have the gravitas, or should I say gravitas,
You really should.
to get anywhere near what Hugo Weaving did. And not that he needed to, but I'm just saying he didn't on number
Yeah.
one. So it didn't have that going for him. And he
I
didn't
mean,
have
it's
that.
tough to live up to that. It's one of the best
Yeah.
characters from the original movie.
Yeah. I'm not saying he needed to, but I'm just saying on the level of like screen presence and intrigue, like it didn't have
Yeah.
that. And he didn't
Yeah.
have the interesting goal and motivation. Like his speech about like to Morpheus, Aegis' speech to Morpheus about like being in this prison and like, and smelling the rotting flesh and every
Yeah.
breath you take. And it's just like
Yeah.
that made that character and the Matrix and the whole concept so much better when you understood like that level of detail from him,
Yeah,
of like
definitely.
what it even was like to be a program, to experience all that stuff. Like who programmed them to smell? Like why? Why do they need a sense of smell? You know what I mean? And why does it have to work like human senses of smell work? And all that kind of stuff. But yeah,
Right.
I wish that, regardless of how the character was played, if they were going to say Agent Smith was back, I wish he would have. I mean, it just felt like it undercut 3 movies of antagonism.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
To have a guy who shows up and he's like sort of too cool for school.
Yeah, they shouldn't have
He
bothered
was
with
like
Agent Smith. That was a bad idea that way.
he was like Negan. He was like it was like the bad guy who he's got his tongue in his cheek. And
Hmm.
that kind of character isn't usually that scary. And
Yeah, I
Agent
agree.
Smith was scary because he was serious.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I wish if they were going to be like, oh, here's Agent Smith back in some other form, that he at least would have, or he would have said Neo, like, hey, look at me, I'm a different version now. Every time I see you, I want something different, and now
Yeah.
all I want is X, Y, Z. But he didn't even actually want anything. It seemed like, from what I can
Yeah.
remember.
No, 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 no. And he really felt tacked on. I mean I
Yeah,
felt the same way about the Merovingian. It's like
yeah,
this vestigial stuff from the old movies that like doesn't really do that much in this story, but
hmm
is seems to be there for nostalgia or something. And the actual, so the analyst character, the Neil Patrick Harris character, I was also
Mm.
not a big fan of. It's like,
Ugh.
I don't know.
Listen, we can't have the bad guy. First of all, everybody in Hollywood, you can't have the bad guy be a therapist, be the main character's therapist, and you can't have the bad guy be played by an A-list star because we're gonna know it's the bad guy. And
Right.
you can't put them in auspicious blue glasses. Sorry, not auspicious. That means nothing. And conspicuous,
Conspicuous? Yeah.
conspicuous
Yeah.
so as soon as you see this character, you're like, well, I guess you're the bad guy keeping him here. So there was no drama there whatsoever. I was didn't on the list of things I didn't like. I did not like that.
Yeah.
He also wasn't that interesting.
No.
I did appreciate that he just had a very simple origin story of, hey, I was one of the fucking machines who were there when you did that fucking Hail Mary thing at the end. And I saw your body and I was like, huh, I'm programmed to exploit situations. I'm gonna
Hmm.
exploit the situation. So like I didn't mind that. That just felt normal. That was just like, okay, cool. Like that seems like a thing that would happen. It didn't have to be like the machine baby thing that Neo talked to decided,
Right.
like, oh, from on high we're going to carry out some new long-term plan. Like I don't mind that, like, to some degree. Like the Matrix itself is a even though it's important for the machines, like it's just not all they have going on their world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't really mind that. But yeah, I didn't think his character worked at all. Um, it, I like him as an actor, but I don't think that's a
I agree.
part. I think to what you said about Lana saying, "Hey, listen, I just want to have fun. We're in a pandemic, and let's just have fun with
Yeah.
my friends." I get it,
Yeah.
but like if you're really gonna do this movie a different way, like I think you cast a different person in that role so you don't see it coming when they're the bad guy.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Like you casted like a more unknown person is what I mean.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think that would have made sense. I actually have a small, like, nitpicky question that maybe you can help me out with.
I love nicking pits.
Yeah, since you watch it twice, like, I
Better
feel like
watch
you
it.
understand the movie better than I do. So maybe you can help with this. So, okay, so there's this thing where they have Morpheus like able to appear in the real world, but he's like
Yeah, yeah,
molecularized. I don't know what to call that.
yeah.
Um, right? They're like, oh, we got this thing, and so
It's
you can
like it's
like,
like a metal. They're basically like metal beads that were being controlled through some sort of magnetic field.
yeah, turned into the form, and so he could like basically like kind of exist, outside the matrix in that form, right?
Yep.
So like I'm cool with that. That's all fine. The part I didn't understand or I just got a little confused by, and I know like Morpheus is a little bit complicated because Morpheus is, he was this modal and then he like somehow transcended that and like so
Well, yeah. Let's talk about what
so
happened.
so he was, yeah, so maybe talking about that will help explain this, but like basically like he was inside Neo's like stuff he was doing and then he was outside it, right? So at a certain point like
Mm-hmm.
he's in the matrix, like the
Yes,
proper
exactly.
matrix, and he looks
Exactly.
normal, right? Like he looks like himself, he's not the molecularized version,
Correct.
right?
Yep.
Okay. So, like, functionally, he should also be a program, even if he was originally a program within a program, right? It's still a
Exactly.
program, right? Right?
Which
Okay.
is why he can show up in the Matrix. Yep.
Okay, cool. So, okay, so okay, so then, like, at a certain point, Sati shows up, right? And,
Oh,
like,
Sati.
we all remember Sati
We
from
can't
the.
forget Sati. She made that. She
I
made
made
that. She made the
that!
sunshine. She made the what was it?
Yeah, the sunset
Sunrise.
or
Yeah.
something. Yeah, sunrise. Yeah. Anyway, look, yeah. So she shows back up, and like she's older and stuff. That's all fine.
That's
Um,
all fine. She aged.
yeah, I understand, right? It's a real world, right? I have no complaints about that. The thing I didn't understand is like, so at the end, they do this mission to get Trinity's body, right? And like, Morpheus is this, like, he's in molecular ball, metal ball form, right?
Uh huh. Uh
But
huh.
Sati looks totally normal. Like, isn't she a program too? Like, how is she appearing outside the Matrix, like in normal form? Like, I was like, how, what? So,
Oh
anyway, that's my
shit.
question,
Oh wait.
right?
What? Wait. What?
You know what I'm talking about? Like, they
Wait.
show her
What?
there with Trinity's body, right? And she looks totally normal. And
Wait.
I'm just
What?
like, how is this even possible?
Hold on. I'm watching it. No, this is all in the Matrix. This is all in the Matrix. So sorry. I'm sorry.
No,
The scene I'm watching is this is a
okay, okay. With the Trinity pod, that part, that's the
Trinity
scene I
Pod.
have in mind.
Okay.
Where they go to extract it.
Yeah, they're cutting between the two in this story. Okay, so here we go. There's Trinity Pod. Bugs is there. So Bugs and Morpheus. I don't see Sati yet.
Is Sati not
Sati
there?
Sati's in the other storyline where she's in the Matrix and they're
I
talking
thought she was
about.
in both, but
Okay, she might
okay.
be. Let me see.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm scanning. Scanning.
I might have to do some
Okay,
scanning
so
myself in case you miss it.
yeah, yeah. Because I
Let's
thought it
see.
was.
So where is
Oh,
that
okay. Oh,
scene?
okay. Okay. So that scene is at about 140. So I think you're talking about when they switched the plugs with Bugs and Trinity. I do feel like Sati was there. Let me see. Ah, there she is. Okay, so she's not really there. She's in the scene, but she's like virtually there. You can see she's translucent.
Oh, she's translucent.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
okay. So she's
I
doing
think
the thing
she's
like that other guy was
yeah,
doing.
I think it's like a visual, like a shorthand where like the idea is the characters can see her, but no one else could see her. You know,
Okay.
they can somehow through their implants or whatever they can somehow see her visually. I think
Okay.
I think that's what that's supposed to be,
Okay.
because that's the way it works when you're in the Matrix, and then the operator dude would like show up, but not
Yeah.
really be there.
Although that's like the opposite thing, but still, like, sure.
Hmm.
That yeah. Okay, okay. If she's
Ah,
translucent,
no, she's
I'll
transitioned. Yeah, you scared me for a second. I was like, "Wait, what?"
okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I saw her and I'm like, how the fuck are you out here? What are you
And
doing?
then Sati, she'd be like, "I did that."
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
yeah.
Ah, can't all programs do this?
Yeah.
What's the problem?
Okay,
Okay,
so
all right.
let's talk
Never
about
mind. Thank you for solving that.
the Morpheus problem real quick, and I'll tell you
Okay.
what I think happened with Morpheus. Okay,
All right.
so
Do tell. Do
I
tell.
think that,
Because I don't have a clue.
and I don't know why. See, some of my nitpicks with the movie has to do with some whys. Like, why Trinity at the end? Like, why this? Can she do X, Y, Z? I want to know why. It's cool she can do it, but why? Um,
Hmm.
and okay, so Morpheus. So Neo programs the modal, right? And so in this modal, the whole point of the modal is it's like a training simulation, a simulated world for that, so an AI can spend time doing something for a goal, right?
Hmm.
Um, uh, and so he programs Morpheus, this character that will eventually, I guess, realize that it's in an artificial world, realize that what it needs to do is go find and rescue Neo and tell him he's in an artificial world, right? Now, in order for that to happen, this AI has to gain sentience. So that's the first why or how. I don't know how Neo programmed an AI to have sentience. I don't know how that happened. Or maybe the modal gave it sentience. That was the point of the modal.
Hmm.
Uh, and then, okay, so now it's like, oh, I'm Morpheus, which was a crazy moment in the movie when he said that. I was just like, "Huh? You're Morpheus?" Because I thought like they meant like his consciousness was still on the grid somewhere, and was just downloaded into this new avatar. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, we're supposed to think the original Morpheus is back. You know, so I like it for the fake out, but I don't like it for what it actually is.
Right.
So okay,
Right.
so then Morpheus is like great. So then that's the scene in the Matrix with Morpheus and Bugs, and he's like, yeah, I'm Morpheus, and then so no, that wasn't in the Matrix. That was in the modal. That was inside the modal they met, and then he escapes the modal and then goes to the Matrix, and that's when he meets Neo in the bathroom and tells Neo he's Morpheus. And then once Neo gets out of the Matrix, this is the third level up. They're in the real world. That's when Morpheus is in the machine, the metal
Yeah.
pieces thing.
Metal Paul. You know, it's funny that it's played by the actor who played Dr. Manhattan
Yes,
because, like, there was
they
definitely a
completely cast him in the same role, the same, very very similar things he's playing for sure.
yeah, yeah. It's like I feel like they saw that and were like, "Hey, this guy could totally do the Morpheus thing we want to do here."
Hmm.
Um, okay, yeah, 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 yeah. I that sounds fine to me. I'll buy it.
Yeah, I wish there was more to the Morpheus thing. You know, they were trying to get a lot of jokes out of, like his costuming
Mm-hmm.
and just his style. I wish there was some more clue about like what Morpheus actually thought about being Morpheus. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like if he, not that I wanted, I don't know. I'm saying I wanted to do this, but not that I really wanted to do this. But an example would be like in the dojo scene, right? When they're about to spar, and he manifests or materializes this like flowy, gowny kimono kind of thing he's wearing, right? Like if he
Mm-hmm.
had commented on that, and goes, "Wow, Neo, like that Morpheus dude had crazy style," or you know what I mean? Like I'd be interested just to see, like he owned it, like that was his own style, right? But,
Yeah,
like, in a sense, it's a version of Morpheus, right? So I
yeah,
don't know, I'm just curious about, like, that because he's not who he really is. He's an AI based on another person, you know,
yeah,
which is just
yeah.
a weird thing that he never really contemplates.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, in my small scale like version of the story, there could have been time to develop that more or make that into a thing. It could have been cool.
I love it. He can, like, become an alcoholic,
Yeah,
and he's like, "Who am I?
exactly.
Am I Morpheus or Morphe not us?" Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, have I gone through my nitpicks with the characters? Let's see. Okay, so we got Morpheus. Talked about Agent Smith. I mean that, I don't know. That was to me a sort of waste of
It was bad.
time.
I think they should have just cut that completely. I think yeah, it's that didn't work at all. I think the Morpheus stuff was marginally better, but it was also underdeveloped. I totally agree.
Yeah. Um
So yeah, talk about the Trinity stuff.
the
What are
Trinity
your thoughts
stuff.
on that? Yeah.
Okay, so I would say overall I liked the main plot line with Neo and Trinity. Overall, I liked it. I saw where it was going. I saw that there was a very specific and deliberate um, um, intention to level the playing field between Neo being the male hero of the original franchise, the original trilogy, and to bring Trinity up to his level or even surpass him, right?
Yeah,
And to kind of
definitely.
like de or I should say, um, what's the right prefix? uh, No, I was gonna say to just to bring more balance to the gender dynamic, right?
Right.
To the tone of the franchise.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. To kind of get away from some of those classical tropes where
Yeah, yeah. So
she's this like supporting love interest
that
character.
stuff I didn't mind, right? And so when um, there was an early scene, if I can remember, where oh man, I'm trying to remember exactly what happened. I've only seen it twice.
Not enough.
Basically, it was a scene where like Neo was trying to save Trinity, but she saved herself, right? Those
Hmm.
kind of scenes, right?
Yeah.
Which are nice to see. I think that my main gripe with getting was my main gripe with how much time the movie spends and effort the movie spends on that particular issue of elevating Trinity or leveling the playing field, I should say, um, is that I didn't understand why in world why we understood from the original movies that what gave Neo his power was the concept of the one, right? There's some aspects of the concept of the one that are real and some that are just myth and not true, right? But like the reason that Neo could stop the Sentinels in the real world is, as the Oracle says, the power of the one goes back to the source, right? Okay, so um, like we kind of get all that stuff, but I didn't understand why, as in this story, when Trinity's wakes up and she's like, "I'm Trinity," and she starts being able to have powers and eventually fly. What allowed that to happen? You know, especially considering that Neo was not able to get back to that level himself, except by the very end. I think that yeah, they're flying together by the very end. You know what I mean? I didn't understand like what was it about? Was it just that she woke up and now she has full control? Versus before when she was in the Matrix, she didn't have that level of control. So I guess that's yeah, that's really what was missing for me. Is like I didn't mind where the character ended up. I just didn't understand how they got there.
Yeah, so I mean I do feel like they're kind of retconning here. My best answer is this bit from the transcript, which you've heard twice. So I'm just gonna repeat things you've heard. But
Is that
uh,
deja vu?
yeah, there you go. uh, so the architect says, um, we worked for years trying to activate your source code. I was about to give up when I realized it was never just you alone. Neither of you is of any particular value. That's a line. Like acids and bases, you're dangerous when mixed together. Every sim where you two bonded, let's just say bad things happened. However, as long as I managed to keep you close, but not too close, I discovered something incredible, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, that first part I feel like is the attempt to say that, like, I don't know, that like it wasn't like the one wasn't as special as we thought. I don't know. It was about the bond between them. It seems like that's what they're trying to say.
So I took that conversation to be well, I took it to be more limit context, but if I broaden it out, I guess I could see that. I thought he was saying more about like the concept he started with, which was about them using them to power the world or something, right? So what can
Yeah.
you go back in the transcript before that when he talks about uh um like what did he say? Like they something when having Neo and Trinity increases the power output of the system. And I you remember that part?
Uh, let's see. Uh, yeah. So okay. Yeah. So it goes on from there. Like yeah, he's explaining why he used the two of them, but that to me that first part is the part that's trying to say that like the bond between them and the two of them together was like the important thing. And I don't think the original movies really say that. I totally agree, but like I feel like that's an attempt to sort of rewrite things. But okay, the continuation is um however, as long as I manage to keep you close but not too close, I discover something incredible. Now, my predecessor loved precision. His matrix was all fussy facts and equations. He hated the human mind, so he never bothered to realize that you don't give a shit about facts. It's all about fiction. The only world that matters is the one in here. And you people believe the craziest shit. Why? What validates and makes your fictions real? Question mark. Feelings. Allow me. Kush here is one of my handlers. They're everywhere. Such a pain. Cloning agents over a copper top. Far more effective just to saturate a population. And bonus, swarm mode is sick fun. Ooh, nicely done. You ever wonder why you have nightmares, why your own brain tortures you? It's actually us maximizing your output. It works just like this. Oh no, can you stop the bullet if you could only move faster? Here's the thing about feelings, they're so much easier to control than facts. Turns out in my matrix, the worse we treat you, the more we manipulate you, the more energy you produce. It's nuts.
Mm.
I've been setting productivity records every year since I took over. And the best part, zero resistance. People stay in their pods happier than pigs and shit. The key to it all, you and her. Quietly yearning for what you don't have while dreading losing what you do. For 99.9% of your race, that's the definition of reality. Desire and fear, baby. Just give the people what they want, right?
Okay,
So
stop right there.
anyway.
So that's the part where they make a leap and lose me. Because everything that they describe up until that last sentence doesn't need Neo and Trinity. Because the whole point, like the original Matrix, already proved the point that humans are fine to stay in the Matrix as long as they're miserable, because that's what we expect as life. When the Matrix was paradise, we didn't buy it because that's not what normal reality is like, right? So we get that. So the analyst is basically saying, hey, if we make your lives miserable, not only do you want to stay in the Matrix, but we're adding this new part of the mythology that you increase your output of energy for some reason. And the worse we treat you. Okay, I got it. Then they make this left turn and say the key to it all.
Yeah.
The key. Okay, so the key isn't what I just said. The key was,
Yeah.
which was torturing you and making life hard to increase your output. The key to making that work is Neo and Trinity.
Yeah.
Them
Quietly
yearning for each
yearning for what
other.
they don't have while dreading losing
Yeah.
what they do.
So to me, I took that to mean that when Neo and Trinity are in their pods, quietly yearning for yada yada,
Mm-hmm.
and the analyst slash the Matrix is creating human misery for all the Matrix subjects,
Yeah.
then they get the power output that they want,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so what I don't get is what is it about Neo and Trinity that makes that work?
Well, so it seems to me like what is being said here is they uh they have to be um they have to be kept
Sorry,
apart.
because what it's not is that Neo and Trinity themselves, because like some sort of like electromagnet, right? Or like there's like a you put it at the right distance between each other, and now you have a current, right? And so, because it's almost they want to say like, well, what we're really doing is getting the power, this unimaginable power from the two of them is what we're really getting. But they're not saying that. They're saying we're getting the power from everybody else that's powered by Neo and Trinity somehow.
Uh yeah, I don't know. It sounds to me like they're saying I don't I feel like to me the burning question is why put Neo Trinity in there at all? Like it feels like what they're saying, and of course this ends up being where the plot
I
goes.
agree.
Like
I agree.
when they get together, I mean he literally says this, like every sim what was it? Uh
He said, let's just say it didn't end well.
yeah, exactly. It was like Yeah, every sim where you two bonded, let's just say bad things happened. And so like to me that's the problem with the story is like it's like, well, we had to keep you two apart so you didn't get together and
Well,
bond and bad things happen, but it's like but you didn't have to put them in there at all. So I don't know.
well, we can get it, dude. We can get into that. Let's start. Oh, we can get that. But I'm still confused on like, are is the power coming from? It's almost like the first movie is like, hey, we're getting energy from human beings. They're the copper tops, right? They're the batteries. And
Yeah.
I thought in this one, I almost feel like they're saying, well, there's a power between Neo and Trinity that's so strong we can mine that too. And it's like we're mining that power by having them be in close contact but never bonding. We can like get the energy out of this like connection. But if they get too close, then that energy explodes.
Yeah.
Right? It's just a weird. I don't know. It's just
It feels like
yeah,
they're kind of saying that, but they're also saying that it's it's like um
yeah.
it's about manipulating people
That's
and
I feel like you're saying. Yeah, that's why I feel like they're saying two different things and getting
yeah.
two different things out of it. But what they're not saying that would help me, regardless of that, is why. I wish the analyst had said two things I wish this movie would have done for me in terms of I don't mind what it's trying to retcon and all that kind of stuff, but in terms of like continue keeping the continuity of the original and the spirit of like you know everything we went through those movies. I wish that they would have said that Zion. Well, they said Zion was saved. I wish they would have said that after what happened with Neo and the peace, that millions of people were freed from the Matrix, and that it increased the normal human population, right? So Io and all these other cities, and because of that, the machines had less power for their civilization, thus needing a solution. Which, oh, guess what? If we put Trinity and Neo next to each other, now we have more power than we need. So, yeah, like I wish to me, because my brain is like pedantic and logical that way. I wish there was a more like logical flow of how they got from the end of that movie to the beginning of this movie in terms of his decision making with Neo and Trinity and like why he's good at being the analyst, right? Like I'm saving our civilization by doing this, right? If we don't have Neo and Trinity in these pods together, we don't have enough power for our world. Like that's what I wish his motivation was, and like why, because that would have made him more interesting to me. If it was like he's solving that level of a problem versus just like, oh, I'm just doing a thing that we can take or leave. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Versus
yeah.
versus him being like integral into like the machine society, right?
Right.
The way the architect felt like integral.
Yeah.
I wish that, and then I wish they had said there were more humans that escaped, and that there was like, a sort of more burgeoning human population, like that's like trying to, either fight the machines again or whatever, But anyway, that's my point.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. It's it's all a bit vague, I guess. But yeah, based on the quote, I mean, I feel like it was like, I want to bring them back. So like there wasn't. It's like they're awesome because they're awesome. Like there's no, I don't know. It feels like there wasn't a desire to even really explain why.
Yeah, which is weird because the first three movies are about why,
Yeah,
and yeah, it just it's to me it undercuts the mechanics of the Matrix of like, okay, is it what allow I guess in the original movie, you know, knowing that you could change something, you just have to believe it, you know, and not think it or whatever. So I just wish there was something like that where it made sense that the more the characters sort of knew themselves, like the more power they had over the Matrix or something like that, you know. But it's also like, you know, it sort of plays out that way. It just isn't really explained, I guess.
Right, right. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's yeah. I mean, it definitely felt, I mean, because it's one movie as opposed to three. It definitely felt smaller in scale, and there was
Mhm,
definitely
mhm.
less of an attempt to like build a huge mythos. It was it was very much like, we want to bring these characters back, we want to say these things about,
Yeah.
like people, and
Mhm,
the matrix and the way that it
mhm.
functions, and like, and sort of recontextualize some of those like things.
Yeah.
But in terms of like really building like an elaborate mythology to explain it all, like it doesn't seem like there was a lot of interest in doing that.
Mm-mm. Well, I will say that they did spend a lot. I mean, I agree with that, but they did spend a lot of time on the world building. Again, I think like there's a lot of creativity into a lot of the places, the new the sentient machines, their design, what they're doing. Um, um, yeah, I get struck by like the details on a lot of this stuff. Um, what was the other thing I was going to mention? The something with bugs. It'll come back to me. Oh, the other thing I was going to say, if you ever watch Sense 8, you'll see like most of this cast is in Sense 8.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
I
it's
see.
pretty funny.
Well, yeah, I mean that happens. If you like people, you work with them
Hmm.
over and over again. Like,
Oh,
yeah.
let's talk about Niobe.
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah.
So I thought that was cool. I thought that was
I
interesting.
totally agree. Unfortunately, since I didn't watch the second and third movies, I have only the faintest memory of Niobe.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I did appreciate that they brought, it to me, that gave it like some more weight of connection with
Hmm.
some of that stuff in the original. I mean, I was kind of disappointed that Zion wasn't there anymore, but and I mean, generally speaking,
They
like I think
said
the
that
movie even voices like the idea that like, well, it didn't matter, like we're still in the same situation
wait. They said
before.
Zion was gone?
Yeah, didn't they?
I don't think they said that. I didn't catch that.
All right, hold on. Let's search it. I swear they said Zion was gone. All right, let's
Oh, did
see.
they? Maybe I missed it.
Okay, hold on.
Where did you
Um,
find this transcript? I need to find the transcript.
okay, here we go. Um, uh, oh, okay. Uh, wow. Oh man. Gotta love the way this is written. God, it's reminding me of Lost now. It's like someone asks a question and then like the answer doesn't explain things.
Totally.
Um okay. So okay, I'll just read the relevant passages and you can draw your own conclusions. Um okay. So it starts off with Niobe saying, "You remember that shit we used to eat? That slop tasted like rust. Zion could have never made something like this. Could have.
Hmm.
Why? Because we needed sentience and DI like him. Zion was stuck in the past, stuck in war, stuck in a matrix of its own. They believed that it had to be us or them. This city was built by us and them. What happened to Zion? I've been waiting for you to ask that question. Ready for the answer? All of the trouble started in the machine cities. Power plants were unable to produce enough energy. Nothing can breed violence like scarcity. For the first time, we saw machines at war with one another. We got word from the Oracle of a new power rising. That was the last we heard from her. I I don't know how that answers what happened to Zion, but my takeaway from that was that Zion was destroyed, or at least was sort of internally collapsed, or something along those lines. I mean, she speaks of
Gotcha.
it in the past tense.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, okay, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, from the context, Zion is at least not number one on the tourist destination
Yeah,
list.
I mean, it's like, yeah, I would think if it still exists, it's like anarchy there.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems like what's being implied, even though
Uh,
it's stated very obliquely.
yeah, I wanted to circle back about some nitpicks on like the machine's plan that we were talking about before, but before that, before we leave Niobe, I thought she played a couple pivotal roles in the second and third movie. She's got a great like the um her flight on the ship back to the docks at Zion right in the nick of time. They have the last EMP, that they need to like save everybody, and she flies through the sewer lines that nobody could fly through. It's a
Mhm.
great, great, great action sequence. It's a classic. She's got a fat ass. When when like she's flying the
Right,
ship and it's like you know
right.
busting through walls and stuff. Um, so I've always liked this character. So when she came back, I was like, that's super cool. It's nice to like you said, get a character back from the original. It makes it feel more grounded. And one of the things I thought was interesting was, like she said, she never believed in the one, but you can't see me holding my finger in the sky. In the air. But she did say, "I believe in him." So I was a
Right.
little like when she was like, "I never believed in the one," and then Neo was like, "Yeah, but you did," and I was like, "Believe in me, right, Neo?" Because that's what she said, and he's like, "Let me use your ship," and I was like,
Right.
"Okay, well, all right," but
Yeah. I
so
forgot about
she
that
was,
line. Yeah.
yeah, so
I remember it now.
she was more like I guess I expected her to have more sentimentality about their past connection
Mhm.
than they showed. But that being I don't even know if that's fair because they did give quite a bit of screen time between the two of them, and it
Yeah.
did let them kind of reminisce on those places. So I think it's,
Yeah.
probably a little unfair of criticism, but I just felt like I wanted her to be like, "Wow," and she even retold the story and didn't really quite give him credit. Well, I guess yeah, I don't know. She's a weird character because, yeah, she was like, well, I stood there at the gates of Zion, saw the machines coming. I was like, we're about to die. And then all of a sudden they left. And everybody said, you did that. And I was like, no, he didn't. Even though she saw all the things, it'd be like being a disciple of Jesus, like you're there when he's doing all the miracles or whatever. And you So she was there when he did all his Neo stuff, and she still wasn't like he's the one.
Yeah, it reminds me of
Um,
the thing from Lost, like when Locke moves the island, and Hurley's like, "Oh my God, Locke moved the island," and Jack's like, "No, he didn't."
no, dude. Yeah, then where'd the island go, Jack? Yeah, shut up. Yeah, yeah, that was the most. Yeah, that was Jack being 4 years old right there. He was just
Definitely.
like, yeah, just complete guttural reaction. No, he didn't. There's no way. Yeah, you can't. Okay, that's why I lost. Okay, so why did you bring that up? What was the? Oh, you said that was like Jack saying that was like what?
I just like Niobe saying like,
Oh,
he didn't do that.
yeah, yeah,
That's not,
yeah,
just like that
yeah,
person standing there just kind of
yeah,
denying what seems obviously true. Just
yeah.
sort of that kind of character, I guess. It feels like that's kind of what they're going for. Oh, I just want to
Mhm,
mention briefly, since it's sort of relevant to this. Like, I think it's interesting that they chose to set the story 60 years later, even though it's been
Mhm.
20 years, which seems like the more obvious choice, and then just come up with a sort of answer for like why the actors only look 20 years older. I mean, with the exception of Niobe, where they did some makeup and stuff
Yeah.
to make it more realistic. Anyway, I don't know. They thought 20 years was too soon for all this. Like I don't know. Maybe they didn't want
Mhm.
to have too many characters from the old days, and this gave a way to kind of make a clean break. Like I don't know. I just think it's interesting
Mhm.
that they did that.
I agree. I agree. That was a nice touch. And then made it also gave the actors different looks, right? So you'd see Neo and Trinity in the Matrix looking 40s ish. You see them outside the Matrix looking older than that.
Hmm.
So yeah, it gave them uh, a more variable kind of appearance
Yeah.
throughout the movie. One thing I wish they would have explained, and I guess it's just like maybe it's just like, oh, this is the new way they do it. But all the Jackson stuff on the back of their necks, it has that
Hmm.
new big jack that they didn't have before. And I love stuff like I love when it's like, here's the little details about how this like, machine technology upgraded over the
Hmm.
years, right? Um, but I just wish they had said like there's a reason for that. Like now you have more control over the matrix, or you're more plugged in, or but more higher power bandwidth, whatever. Like, you know, um, I was just kind of curious if there was like a functional thing. But anyway, back to Niobe. Yeah, I was glad to see her. I think she did that. They did a good job bringing her back and using her for for what they needed her for. She got to be an antagonist while being
Hmm.
supportive a little bit. Yeah, I think overall it worked.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I thought, and I'll just say this: uh, there's a lot of action in this movie that I didn't think was that interesting.
Hmm.
Um, Particularly when they go uh it's like the big, I guess it's like in the midpoint where they're in the like this like these wooden platforms, some sort of like wooden warehouse
Yeah.
place, and the Merovingian
Yeah.
shows
Right.
up and it's like a big shootout. It's almost like a western feel in a
Yeah.
way. I thought that was fairly
Yeah.
boring.
Yeah. That scene felt very
uh
pointless to me. I didn't
I
like
thought
that.
it was the the um the martial arts left something to be desired. Like it didn't have that impact, right? You know what it felt like? It almost felt like the way the original Matrix fighting style was so over the top stylized. It's like a dance, right? It's so choreographed in this like flowy way.
Yeah.
Um, and the action in this movie was more fast paced, more like a modern action movie kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of like, and I wonder if they did that as like as a way to make the distinction, between like I was like the two matrices almost,
Mhm.
like this one moves differently or something,
Mhm. Yeah, 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 yeah.
you know.
Yeah, maybe so,
But yeah,
maybe so.
yeah, I think yeah, if anything, yeah, I wish there's not as much memorable action, or I should say fighting sequences in particular in this movie that I would have expected.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It
Um,
was there was a lot of action, but yeah,
a lot of action,
it was
yeah.
a bit more generic than
Yeah,
stuff they did before.
what it felt like was a video game. I thought they did. That was my feeling was when I saw it the first time. I thought they were doing a great job making me remember what it's like to play a fun video game.
Mhm.
Because when Neo is on the motorcycle Trinity and he's blasting, Star Wars force powers basically,
Mhm.
uh, force blasting people. I played that game when he's got two helicopters and one shoots a missile at him, and he's got to use his force power to make the missile shoot.
Mhm.
I've literally played that game. That's a video game sequence we played, right? And so that's what it was. I thought that was nice because it was so integrated into the story of this whole concept of like this video game that they created. Um, Now, on the flip side, one of the things I didn't like about the idea of this narrative, like, oh, the Matrix was the thing. Tom was a video game Thomas Anderson created, not a movie he wrote and
Mhm.
directed, but a video game he created. The thing that I didn't like about that was every time they had flashbacks, they were clearly cutting to a movie.
Yeah.
And then when in the world, when they would show footage from the quote game,
Mhm.
and it was obviously from the, he go, oh, this is, they show footage from the movie and they go, oh, this is footage from your game. And
Yeah.
it's like, the games don't really look like that. Now, some game cut sequences can be cinematic like that.
Yeah.
That can be fine. But it was weird to me that they didn't do anything to make it look like a video game.
Right.
They just said, "Hey, this movie is a
Yeah,
video
yeah,
game.
yeah.
This film footage is a
Period,
video
like,
game."
that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it was strange to me. Like, why didn't they just say he made a movie?
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, the answer is because it needed to be an immersive world, right? And so a video game is an immersive
Right,
world,
right.
a virtual world, that's more to what the Matrix is about
Yeah.
a virtual world.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah,
the AI
it was just a
element
little weird to
too
me.
with the,
Yeah.
whatever you call it,
Mhm.
modal? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I was like, maybe they should just said, like, Thomas Anderson was a writer who wrote the Matrix movies, and then they hired him to make games off of that, and then that's when he lost his mind or something,
Mhm.
but small nitpick.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Small nit
yeah, yeah. Nah, that would've worked fine for me. I mean, there is, like, a video game-ish thing about the old movies, like, I feel like they're kind of
Oh, yeah.
catching on to that, um,
Mhm.
aspect, but, yeah, like, literally, like, it just doesn't I mean, you don't get to control what the characters do, so it's not a video game.
Mhm. Mhm.
Ergo, uh, so yeah, yeah, that's a good point. It didn't really bother me, but I think now that you mention it, it's bothering me.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it reminds me of, like, the Hunger Games premise. It's like, if you think about it too long on the front end, it doesn't make sense, but if you just get past
Yeah,
it, then it'll be worth, like, whatever the we get out of it. Because I
yeah,
think what they get out of it being the Matrix being a video game he created in the long run is a better idea.
definitely.
But but in the beginning, I'm like, but it's a movie.
Right.
Why don't you just like do that thing?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I definitely think
because
that they would have to, like, completely rewrite the movie for this, but definitely in my small scale version of the story, like, it could have been a movie, and that would have been fine.
Mhm,
And that would have been
mhm,
but I guess the only hesitation I have about that is it would make it maybe a little too similar to some of those other movies I referenced, that are
mhm,
sort of
mhm.
meta movies about movies per se. I think a meta movie about
Yeah,
video games would be like a little bit more delving into new territory, and so I guess I like it on that originality level. But I think on a functional level and,
yeah, yeah,
I mean, they
exactly.
were movies, so let's be
Yeah.
honest. I don't know.
Yeah, so the video game thing, I think they did a good job with really, emphasizing that, but I think it got boring. Some of the action got boring at the end where
Yeah,
Neo hit the height of his powers basically became force powers, Star Wars
yeah.
force powers, which I didn't understand because that's not what he did in the original movies.
Yeah, yeah.
He wasn't doing that. I wish we had gotten a semblance of the old Neo back in some way. There I don't even think there were any big callbacks to some of the classic stuff from the first movie. Um, Oh, that was the other thing that they ate in a way with this Trinity Neo thing is Hancock. Have you ever seen the movie
No,
Hancock?
sadly.
Okay, I'm gonna ruin the ending for
Hmm.
you if you don't mind.
Go for it.
Hancock is a what is it? Early 2000s sci-fi big budget film with starring Will Smith and Charlize Theron. And basically, the story starts out with Hancock. He's like a character who's like has like Superman type powers, but he's like a ne'er do well. Like he's not a hero. He doesn't care about saving people, whatever. Right, but he can fly. He's super strong and all this stuff. So the story ends up being this mystery. You don't really know it's a mystery, but he doesn't really know where he came from and his identity and all this stuff. So throughout the course of the movie, you kind of because like sort of a question about where his powers come from and stuff like that, and his origin. Because I think we know he's like not human or something. Yeah, we don't know what he's supposed to be. But anyway, you find out. Sorry, long story longer. You find out that he's got a partner, the Charlize Theron character, and that when they're apart, when they are physically apart from each other, they manifest these powers, these extraordinary powers. But when they're close together, like married, because they basically have been married over several generations of lifetimes and things like that.
Hmm.
Uh, and when they're together, they don't have any powers and they're completely vulnerable together.
Hmm.
When they're separated, they have strong
It's like
powers.
the
So
opposite of
anyway,
the Matrix.
this is exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, this is Hancock," where like you've
Yeah.
got these polar these two poles where this energy fluxes between the two, and depending on where they are with each other, that's tells you how much energy you get out of this thing. Um, uh, yeah. So anyway, my point was that I wish that Neo had done a couple more cooler things as he got back to his neo-ness by the end. But what undercuts that is the fact that it's Trinity's time, right? Like this is her story, really.
Yeah.
Uh, and Neo doesn't really. It's not about his journey back to being Neo. It's about her journey to be the new Trinity.
Yeah.
Now that being said, what I wish they would have done was made Neo her Morpheus. I wish that he now to a little bit they did that. He did help find her and get her out of the matrix, right? He
Hmm.
facilitated the main part of it. Um, but I wish that they had nailed that a bit more. That he, the same way that he realizes he needed a more to create a Morpheus to get himself where he needed to be. That he needed to be a Morpheus for Trinity,
Right.
and then like just because it's like they did the thing, but like I'm like just call attention to
They
it at
didn't
the
really
end.
underline it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Just go ahead and underline it.
Yeah.
Um, and like he's stopping bullets, but that's the thing. Yeah, it became like this video game thing where he's got this one like telekinesis type power he just keeps using over and over, and like that's really it. And I've seen really, 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 really low budget action films that do that. That have
Hmm.
done that exact same thing. So a missile gets shot at the person and they deflect it, and so it became like really lowbrow in a way, considering how much highbrow stuff is in the movie.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, I agree. I mean, he said, "I still know kung fu." I mean, was that not enough of a callback?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's fine. That's an obvious one, but
Very
because I mean,
obvious. I did
yeah,
appreciate the brief bit where he tries to fly and he just kind of half-ass jumps in the air.
yeah.
Like that could go in
Well,
my alternate version of the movie,
yeah.
and I would be really happy about that. But
I like it. Yeah, no, that was nice. Where he's like, "Nope, not happening."
yeah,
Well, again, but see that, and that's why, like, I'm just like, I want to know why. Why is he not able to be at his full strength power? Because he's gonna fly later.
because he didn't have Trinity
So,
yet.
what does that
I don't
mean?
know, but I feel like that's what the movie's saying. Don't
I
ask me.
completely, I completely feel like that's the answer, and I
Yeah.
don't know
I
why.
don't know why
I
either. The
don't know
movie didn't
why.
explain it, but that I think that's the end. I don't know. I mean,
Wow. You can't fight it because he doesn't have her, and
yeah,
it's like, okay,
yeah.
huh?
I
All
mean, what
right.
more do you
There's
want?
the
I
answer.
don't know.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Okay. That's all you need. That's all you need.
But yeah,
So, but he had her. He had her at the end, and he couldn't fly. And like she, when they jump off the building together, and then he falls, and she flies and catches him, basically.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Well, I don't know.
the-
She got it first for some reason. I don't
yeah,
know. I mean, yeah, it's part of that thing you were saying. Like they want to make it focused on Trinity's journey, and therefore, like she's going to have the big moment of that
yeah,
happening, and so that inherently means that he won't have it. And I don't know. Yeah, I feel like in a way,
mhm,
it's a consequence of just the structure of the kind of story they want to
yeah.
tell that it is working that way. But as for like a
The
real why, like oh boy, I can't do
Yeah.
that for you.
The only thing I really hate about the Trinity flying and catching him thing was just the way it looked. She looked like she was suspended from wire.
Yeah,
She didn't look like she was
I'm sure she
flying.
was.
Yeah, it just didn't look convincing. It looked clumsy and
hmm
weird.
Yeah, sure,
But I didn't mind what they were trying to get out of it.
sure.
Okay, and then they go to see the analyst at the end. And what do they basically threaten him and they say, "Hey, well, we're gonna go off and play around in the Matrix now." But like, why? Like, what control do they really have? Like, what power? See, that's what I'm saying about the previous whys that I was asking and not getting an answer to. They're all built up now
hmm
because now they're gonna go off and have some sort of unlimited control of the Matrix, and I don't know why because I didn't understand their previous levels of control that they had before.
Yeah,
Like, what is it based on?
yeah, exactly.
Exactly. 'Cause see, listen, I'll buy that Trinity and Neo have a bond and they have a power between them, and you can put them in a machine and siphon energy from that power. I get that. Okay, cool. But why does that give them control over the Matrix?
Yeah.
That's for you. That's for you, Professor.
Good question. Yeah. No, actually, I think it's an interesting note. I didn't actually fully take this in, but when I was reading that part from the architect earlier, where he's talking about the two of them, like, I think he says that like no one.
Are you're calling him the architect? Do you mean the analyst?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I
Okay.
I just think of him as the new architect, but yeah, he
Yeah.
is the analyst indeed. I mean, he really is an architect though. Like the analyst thing was just a role he was playing for Neo, right? Like anyway. Um
Well, when he originally said the analyst, I forgot that he was the therapist. And when he said the analyst, I thought what he meant was like he analyzed the situation. He was an analytical program and he analyzed the situation with Neo and came up with this whole solution. That's what I thought he
oh
meant by analyst, like the same way the architect was the architect. I was like,
oh
oh, the analyst, his program is an analytical program, and that's what gives him his skills.
okay.
That's
Okay.
but then I remember he was a therapist. I'm like, oh, maybe that's just what they mean. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a little of both.
Um Uh oh yeah. This is the part. This is the part where he says, and the best part is zero resistance. People stay in their pods, happier than pigs and shit, right? So
Oh, that means no need to go
so
on.
I think he's saying that people aren't leaving the Matrix. Like that whole thing that was happening, in the old
Yeah,
days, like the people who are out are
he's
just the people
saying.
who were already out.
Yeah, he's saying that the whole reason that they created the one to balance the equation
Mhm.
the architect had, there's no need for that anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. I just think that's interesting. So anyway, my interpretation is that because they're back, that thing is going to be happening again. I don't know. I assume that's what we're supposed to think.
Wait, what?
I
Because what?
because Neo and Trinity are back together, that whole thing of people resisting and leaving the Matrix and stuff like could happen again. I assume we're
Mm.
supposed to think that.
Well, okay, yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. Did that answer your question?
No, no. What was that supposed to answer?
Sorry, it felt relevant to what you were saying, but now I don't remember what your question was. So I guess they didn't answer it.
Why they have power over the Matrix?
Oh,
I
the
guess
same
is my
reason
main
they did
question.
before.
Which was what?
I thought I could
I
just say
love that.
that. I don't know.
That's great. I love that. The same reason as before. The reason hasn't changed. Next. Next question, please.
Yeah, I
Like,
know.
where do I go? Where am I supposed to park my car? Yeah, park where you parked last time.
Exactly. No, I get your point. It's like I feel like basically because they're kind of retconning how Neo and Trinity function, it kind of negates the stuff they told us about the one in the old story, which was explaining why he has the powers that he does, and so now there's like no explanation anymore. It just kind of
Well,
hollowed it
okay.
out.
We know that from the original movies, any freed mind in the Matrix who knows they're in the Matrix can can bend the rules a little bit, right?
Yeah,
Of physics and stuff, right? Can bend it a little bit, and then the one can break them because he's got more power, more whatever, and
yeah,
he's connected to the source. That's the extra bit they tell us later,
right.
right? Um, I was going to lead to a point, but my point is just that I don't understand why they have power over the Matrix. Um,
Yeah, I mean that's what I was trying to say. I mean, I feel like with the way they tried to recontextualize the old story, it kind of rendered those explanations like non-functional anymore. And so and because they didn't explain this new thing in any like specific way, like it's really just explained in this very vague, like it's your connection
mhm.
thing. Like that's, I mean, that's just all we get. I don't know, but I feel like it's a
Yeah,
consequence of the way they wrote the story that happened.
because why? Okay, great. Then, like, uh,
I mean, they could have put lore in to like cover up the retcon, but chose
mhm.
not to for whatever reason.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to say, we were going to nitpick some of the early part of like why the analyst plan is like the first problem with his plan is that when Neo gets disconnected from the Matrix, uh, there's nobody watching him. There's no guards. There's no like,
Yeah, that
you know
was
what I mean?
weird.
Like, you're gonna want to keep that body in a
That
hidden
was really
position.
weird given
Um,
how valuable they supposedly are. Although I'm still unclear about that, honestly. Like when I read that monologue, it's not even clear to me that Neo and Trinity matter per se. It really reads to me like what he's saying is we just had to keep you apart. But I don't understand why they had to be there in the first place. I feel like he never specifically says that they had to be there. You know, like
but
that's
no,
what
but
I'm
it's
stuck
almost like
on.
what's it. Well, yeah, and then it seems like there's two things that they need to be physically close to each other but not touching. So the pods have to be together, but they also need to be in the matrix, wanting each other, knowing each other's around, but not together in order for this like connection thing to work. So I feel like that's the thing. Like that's why the pods have to be in the same room. Like they have to be close for this whatever he's talking about to be maximized. This energy output thing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I feel like that should be true, but I just, it's hard for me to actually see where that's actually stated. I don't know. I do think the visuals and the story like implies that that's true, but I don't know. It's just interesting to me that like I read the words and I'm like, he never actually says specifically that we needed the two of you in there but apart. Like he just says you couldn't be together because bad things happen.
But he did say you need to be close and yearning, but like whatever. What was the yearning part?
Okay. Let's see. Um, uh, uh, yeah, every sim where you two bonded, let's just say bad things happened. However, as long as I managed to keep you close, but not too close, I discovered something incredible. Blah, blah, blah stuff about the architect. Uh,
So that's it. So the close but not too close is what he discovered.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But like the thing that's missing to me, so okay, so then he goes on to say, like, all you people just care about is fiction and all that matters is in your head and you believe crazy stuff and blah blah blah. And then he says, like, you wonder why you have nightmares, why your brain tortures you. It's us maximizing your output. It works just like the, so um it turns out in my matrix, the worse we treat you, the more we manipulate you, the more energy you produce. I mean, it sounds to me like all that stuff is about the people in the matrix in general, like not about, like he's talking about all of them, not Neo and Trinity per se, you know, like that's
Uh-huh.
the impression I have. And so that's where I go back to saying, like, I don't get why they even have to be in there at all. It feels like they're just a liability, which they clearly are, because that's where the story
Well,
goes.
but he said the key to it all is you and her. That's the problem. That's yeah, yeah.
Oh
To his
yeah, then at
point.
the end he says the key to it all.
Yeah, that's the thing is he describes a system
Right.
that doesn't need them to
And then he
function,
says,
and he
"Oh,
says
that was your
the key
question
to it
from earlier. I'm
all.
back to your question." All right.
Yeah,
There
yeah,
you go.
yeah, yeah.
Thank you. I
There you
forgot he
go.
said that. The key to it all. Quietly
Yeah.
yearning for what you don't have. Yeah, okay. But it just, but then he ends on just give the people what they want. Like it feels like he's saying like a generic thing that they're doing to everyone is what we were doing to you also.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But you're right. The key to it all. The key to it all, he says. So I guess that does seem like it implies like they had to be there. If they're the key, then you can't just like not have them there.
Oh, is he? Maybe he's saying. Oh, I'm almost on to something. Maybe he's saying not the key to this thing working, but that he got the idea for this system from Neo and Trinity. Like they're the key to the idea that he came up with to do this to people. Seeing Neo and Trinity quietly yearning for what they don't have, this desire and fear thing is what gave him the idea to do it to everybody else, and then it worked great.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's what he's saying.
Yeah.
Like, so not that you're the key in that you power all of this thing, but that I got it from watching you or whatever.
Right. Right.
Uh,
Right.
and so I looked at you guys and I saw desire and fear, and I just gave it to everybody
And
else.
that worked for everybody
Uh,
else too. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what
But again, that brings me back to just take them out. Like, why are they there?
it is.
Like, isn't that a simpler solution? I don't know. If it's working so great and you're getting all this and they're not doing anything in particular.
Okay. Okay, so let me go. Let's go back. Let's go back. Let's go back.
This speech is impenetrable. Oh my god.
Yeah, I hate speeches like this. We've never found solace in speeches like this. You know what I mean? We always like anytime we're in a transcript,
Yep.
it never ends
It
well.
really
You
does.
never get what you want out of
I
a transcript.
know. I know. And it's like I mean, it's funny. It's like that thing I read from Niobe, like what happened to Zion? I'm glad you asked that question because she doesn't really
Yeah,
say.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, why? How do you get away with writing stuff like that? It didn't feel wrong when I was watching the movie. It seemed like it flowed more or less logically, but it's like you
Yeah.
look at it and it's like, what are you talking about? I don't understand. Yeah, I had to pull this up because I'm like, I'm not gonna remember these details, and maybe this will help. Like if I read the words, I'll be able to process it better.
Okay, okay. So it starts with extraordinary opportunity. So after he was there when Neil died, he convinced the suits to let me rebuild the two of you. Why her getting there? Okay, so he's basically saying there's some extra thing that happens because he's going to get to the point that neither of them are great by themselves.
Right.
Um, so he renovated them. Uh, Now he didn't say why he was doing it. He just did it.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Um,
Just takes as a
yeah.
given that I was gonna resurrect you.
Oh, okay. So here's this thing about activating your source code. That went nowhere, right? Like I don't know what that
I
means.
don't know what that means either.
I thought that was the thing they were going to get explained. What do you say?
It's talking about the one stuff.
I don't know what he's talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, he says, you know, hope and despair are nearly identical in code. We worked for years trying to activate your source code. I was about to give up when I realized it was never just you alone. Neither of you is of any particular value. Okay, so I guess he's saying the key to your power, we'll call the source code, I guess, is what he's saying. And that he couldn't unlock it until he realized that she was the key. So it's almost like saying, okay. So it's like saying he was able to create power or whatever yada 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 power by his connection to Trinity. So yeah, so that's the recontextualization of the original movie. Is that kind of saying they're almost saying like his power wasn't coming from the source or like his connection to the source.
Mm-hmm.
It was like his love of Trinity and his connection
Yeah.
to Trinity was what was powering
Yeah.
everything. Okay. And then like acids and bases, you're dangerous when mixed together. Every sim when you two bonded, let's say bad things happen. Okay, so what's weird about this is how come this didn't happen last time? They bonded. They've been in proximity before for 3 movies. Nothing bad happened. So why was once they were rebuilt? Is it just because of a new Matrix? But this is a new phenomenon now that every
Wait,
time
what are
they're
you
bonded.
saying? Bad things didn't happen before. I mean, I assumed they considered the stuff that happened in the first three movies bad.
Well, I guess I mean the explosions that we see happen when Trinity and Neo are with each other in this movie. I guess that's
Oh,
what
okay.
I thought he was
Okay.
saying. I thought he was referring to that, not like you guys defeated us.
Yeah, that's actually what
Uh,
I thought he meant. But anyway, okay.
no, I think he's saying explosion because that's what we see later when they're together. Because he's making this acids and bases comparison.
Yeah, 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 yeah. But I thought
So,
it was like a very all encompassing thing. But I don't know. I mean, it's not many.
because there's no, but like, what Sims would they be running where something bad would happen?
The Matrix.
In terms of,
I mean, this is
oh,
my
you're
interpretation
saying
here, but I thought that's what he meant.
the Matrix wasn't as well. It was. I thought when he said sim, he meant more like something very specific, not like the Matrix was just another simulation that they ran. Like, you know what I mean? I thought he meant like almost like within the Matrix they were running simulations
Yeah,
because
I mean that
because
probably is
because
true.
they're jacked into the Matrix,
Yeah,
right? And so they're running simulations within the Matrix,
yeah.
and then when they get close together, I thought he was literally saying what we see later with the explosions, um, but I get you. Okay, let's see.
Well, yeah.
Okay, so
So
this
I
one.
think he's saying both things because he does say it was never just you, although neither of you is any particular. Like to me, that it seems like he's implying there that you know all that stuff that happened depended on your bond of Trinity.
Hmm.
I thought that's what that meant. I mean, I do think he's also saying that he was experimenting and doing Sims, and when they had Sims where they were together, bad things happened. I do think that's right.
Yeah. And then, so as long as I manage to keep you close, but not too close, to discover something incredible. Uh, okay. Uh, so I don't want to just reread the thing you just read, but yeah, this speech is a little weird to me. It's really all over the place. There's like 15 different points being made.
Yeah.
Um, because I thought there was an interesting point when they were saying you don't give all you care about is fiction. The only world that matters is the one in here. You believe the craziest shit. I thought that would be an interesting point to make about why he believed in the that the Matrix was even fake to begin with. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Oh yeah.
but um, in order to control him, they just told a crazy story to him. Yeah, this speech is all over the place. It's hard to get out of it. Uh, some of the details, but I guess there's I guess it's both things. They have to physically be close, but not too close.
Right. Yeah, it's frustrating. Like this sentence, I discovered something incredible. He doesn't like. I want him to
Hmm.
complete that thought. What? What? Because I feel like he never quite says it.
Yeah,
I feel like that's the sentence that should end with, when the two of you were close but not too close. Like you provided some outrageous power output, or you enabled the matrix to extract more power, so, whatever they want to say, like they harness some aspect of their bond without like the negative consequences. I mean, I feel like that's what they want us to think, but
yeah.
it's just never actually stated here.
I'm gonna do a hail mary and sum up these two paragraphs and see if I can come up with a cohesive thought.
Okay.
Because I think it's almost like a chronological issue here. I almost want to say he kept them close, but not too close. And what he discovered, the incredible thing he discovered was that when they were quietly yearning for each other while dreading losing what they had, um, now I'm already lost. Wait, then what happened? Uh, then we had this energy output, and so desire and fear. Okay, now we go back up to the top, and he goes, see, the regional matrix was about facts and equations, um, but fiction is all that matters. Therefore, in order to do this desire and fear thing, I pumped this world full of fiction, like the nightmares and making your brain torturing you, and that is what maximizes the output. Um, so that seems pretty straightforward to me, man. Don't ask me to repeat what I said.
Wait, okay. I don't think I quite got it, but okay. You explained it, I guess.
I almost want to say this whole thing about the power is separate. Like the physical power is separate from this desire and fear mechanic that makes humans output more energy. I feel like they're two separate things. And so when he says, I kept you close but not too close, let's see, now I want to put the power thing back in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he talks about the power, right? Productivity records, zero resistance, the key to it
Well,
all.
there's electricity power, but then there's the the metaphysical power, right? That's what I'm talking about.
Huh? Sorry. Sorry, I don't think I know what you mean. Who's
So what
metaphysical power? Why metaphysical power? Like, what's going on?
I meant the power that we see like when they're in the Matrix and are like blowing stuff up and using Matrix power and like flying around and like
Oh,
when Trinity and Neo, about to touch each other and the big
but he's not
explosion
talking
happens.
about that, is he?
Well, that's my point. Is I thought okay, because he was saying I was trying to get at your source code, right? I was trying to unlock whatever the key to your power is, right? Uh, to me, that's the metaphysical power, not the your like electricity being converted from your body power. But
Okay.
he is talking about both things at a certain point.
Okay.
So I thought he was basically saying, there was a power of the one that they attributed to Neo being the one and the connection to the source. And now we're realizing the new story is no, that actually wasn't it. The power came from this like polarity between Trinity and Neo.
Yeah.
It is a power. It is a power though, and so that's one idea, right? Now there's a second idea of if you put Neo and Trinity close together in the pods, you can maybe mine that power, that metaphysical power can be like mined into electricity power. Then there's a third part of the idea that is um, just human beings in the matrix having nightmares and their brains torturing them and living a normal life makes them output energy,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
There's a fourth part of the idea that combines the previous ideas, which is that if you have the people in the matrix outputting a lot of energy because they're being tortured, and you have Neo and Trinity hooked up to the matrix, and you're like mining their metaphysical power, somehow you get all the power you could ever want. So I don't know which is the version they're telling us is we're supposed to be thinking of here. Um, but that's the landscape as I see it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean that. Yeah, that's. I mean, how can I argue? It's yeah. That seems.
Well, what do you? So, which of those is the way you're seeing it?
Oh, I'm sorry. You gave choices. Can you- I thought that was all one
was
thing.
that a was that enumerated list?
Yeah, I mean. Okay, wait. What are the choices?
There was like four permutations of the idea.
Oh my God! Wow. Okay, I thought I was paying attention. Okay, all right. Just here. Let me focus, and I'll try to catch it this time. Okay. What are the four possibilities?
Well, I mean, let's see if I can remember them. But I was basically saying like this idea of the one and this the power that comes that Neo has in order to transform the Matrix into what he wants,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Is
yeah.
like this metaphysical power.
Right.
It's separate from electricity power that they're using that the
Yeah.
machines get from human beings to power their world,
Right,
right?
right, right.
Okay, so the first concept is that that the power wasn't coming that Neo had wasn't because he was quote the one or had connection to the source or whatever necessarily. It was really this duality polarity between Trinity and Neo that
Mhm.
gives one of them or both of them now the ability to transform the matrix into what they want,
Yeah.
right? Now there's this okay, so that's kind of one nugget of an idea.
Okay.
The next part is the analyst says, "Hey, that source code, like this special thing, this incredible power that he has, maybe I can mine that and actually convert that into electricity for my productivity
Mhm.
numbers, right?" So that's like the second version. That's why he wants Neo and Trinity physically close together is
Mhm.
because it generates this power metaphysical source. It opens the door to the source code, which is where the power is.
Mhm.
Let's put it that
Okay.
way. And there's a door right there to walk through. And all I want is beyond. I think that's the lyrics we love so much.
Uh-huh.
Uh, okay, the next iteration is that okay. Then you have separately, you have human beings in the world who are connected to the matrix, who are being given nightmares and being tortured, and that creates a lot of energy output, right?
Yeah.
For the electricity,
Yeah.
not metaphysical power, but electricity power.
Yeah.
And then the fourth version combines all those and says that if you have the people in the matrix generating all the power and Neo and Trinity in the machines next to each other, then now you have this multiplying effect on the power output.
Yeah.
Uh, so anyway, that's the
Okay.
landscape again. I can't
Got
believe
it.
I remember.
Got it. Got it. Okay, so I think the first one is very likely correct. The second one, I'm not sure about. The third one is literally stated, so I think that's absolutely correct. And the fourth one should be true, but they don't say it.
What was the third one? The third one was
um,
uh, oh, human beings.
yeah,
Yes.
the thing
Yeah, yeah,
about the
yeah. But
power coming from the
yes,
nightmares
yes,
and the manipulation and the torturing and all that.
yeah.
I mean, that's stated directly, so I feel like that's definitely true. The first
Mhm.
thing feels like it's implied, but it's not quite said, so I'm pretty sure about that one. Yeah, the fourth one is like the synthesis that I think should work, but since they don't say it, like
Mhm.
it's hard to be sure if that's really what they had in mind. I do think like saying the key to it all after talking about the energy coming
Yeah.
from, it seems like it's implying that there, that four, is on the right track. But
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Yeah, after that first movie where I mean, say what you will about the laws of thermodynamics or whatever, but like it's pretty clear what's going on and why.
Mhm. Mhm.
you know, like they communicated the essential elements of the story and why they work the way they do, and you know, you don't have to believe it, but you at least know what you're supposed to believe. Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, I just think it's interesting that this is written in this way where I'm not
Yeah.
even 100% sure what I'm supposed to believe.
It's also weird because it's altering what we think about, like you're saying, a very concrete explanation from the previous movies. It seems like
Yeah.
after six iterations of the Matrix, the architect in them, it wouldn't have been a surprise that the worse humans are treated, the more energy we produce. I guess I wish I wish they said there was some big reason why this new dynamic is happening. Like I said, we lost millions of people to the awakening after the one defeated us, or we got
Hmm.
peace or whatever, or we let people choose. And so now our systems are different. Yeah, I just wish it was I wish they didn't have to change how the concept of how they're getting energy from people worked, because I feel like they're adding this thing of like the worse we treat you, the more energy you produce. But yeah, but we've always been treated badly. So why is this new? Like that's what I don't understand. Is like why is this a new thing?
Yeah, I agree. I
All
do
of
think
the
that idea was already there in the original. And
yeah,
yeah, it feels like an attempt to retcon, but then they just kind of circle back to something similar but more vague.
yeah.
It's
Now
strange.
one line that they could have thrown in here that would have maybe made me forget it is if they would have said something like, or at least maybe just get the point and leave the details alone. It's just like, turns out in the Matrix, the worse we treat you, the more we manipulate you, the more energy you produce. why do you think things are always getting worse? Right? Because
Mm-hmm.
we always have this feeling that the world is always getting
Right,
worse.
right, right,
Right. So a line like that might have made me go, oh, okay, I see what they're saying.
right.
They're just going to increasingly make things horrible over time to get us to make more energy. And they've always been doing that.
Yeah, yeah. I think the other part of the speech that like is a bit fuzzy to me is this stuff about the architect, where he says like he
Yeah.
loved facts and equations, he hated the human mind, so he never bothered to realize that you don't give a shit about facts. Like that just does that's a non sequitur. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
matter it doesn't matter whether the people that you're manipulating care about facts, right? I mean, you have to care about facts
Yeah.
too, right? To like make this place. Like I don't like that just doesn't make any sense to me like what he's trying to say
Yeah, I
there.
agree. It's like he's saying because the architect wanted to use facts that it was a problem because his subjects didn't want to use facts. That
Yeah.
doesn't those two things don't mean anything to each other.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I and it's not like the architect was trying to control people with facts.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's not what the Matrix was about. The whole point was that it was a lie. Like I don't understand.
The whole point it was about the fiction.
Yeah, like that's the whole like don't you remember what the movie was? Like I don't
Yeah,
know. It's very
yeah.
strange. Very
Yeah, I
strange to
don't
frame
think
it
the
that way.
analyst has seen the movie. I don't think the analyst saw the movie.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's like, why didn't you watch it? Like, you might have understood what the point was a little better. I don't know. Yeah, it's like they're trying to reframe it and they're trying to give a rationale for why this is
I
different. But
Yeah, I think it's bordering on sloppy here because there's 15 different thoughts in this one sentence,
yeah,
and it's like yeah, he didn't bother realize he didn't give a shit about facts. It's all about fiction. Okay, so now we went from facts to fiction. Okay, let's keep track of the subjects here. The only world that matters is the one in here. Okay, now we're
hmm,
about to buy it. You people believe the craziest shit. Okay, what makes your fiction's real? Feelings. Okay, so now we're talking about feelings. We're on
yeah,
topic 4. Allow me here. Kush,
right,
here's one of my handlers. Okay, now we're on this fifth topic about handlers. They're everywhere. Such a pain. Cloning agents over copper top. Okay, now we're talking about cloning agents. We're 6 levels deep, right? And we started with the architect. We started with the
yeah,
architect caring about facts and
right.
that. And then far more effective to saturated population and bonus hormone is fun. So we start with first of all, what we start with is as long as I manage to keep you close, but not too close, I discover
Yeah,
something incredible.
yeah,
But let's pretend we didn't start there and start a little closer. Now my predecessor loved precision. So we started with him talking about the architect,
yeah.
and he ended with describing swarm
Swarm mode
mode
is
of
sick
his
fun.
agents. Yeah, and it's like, huh? And now we're
Yeah,
going to switch topics and go back to the feelings thing and talk about the nightmares and why your brain tortures you. It's actually us maximizing your output. And I don't like little things like that where it's like, why can't brains just be brains? Like, brains are complex. Brains can't have guilt. We can't have guilty
no.
brains in the matrix that torture
Everything our
ourselves.
brain does, they do to us.
So us,
Like
yeah. I'm like,
apparently.
no, come
Yeah,
on.
yeah, that's I have to say, this is giving me a thought. So like I don't know if any of you heard our Twin Peaks like season 3 podcast. But like at
I did.
at the I did too. But at the end of or at the beginning of I think it was episode part 17 or something. It doesn't really matter, but it's towards the end, like there's this Gordon Cole monologue, right, where he gives
Uh
he
oh. Uh oh. Uh oh.
where he gives like all this exposition, right? That's like giving context, like it's retconning stuff from the original series,
Woo, man.
and it's like giving us context to understand like what we're about to watch, at the end of the season, right? And like we poured over that thing, right? And like I was left thinking like this is the most like opaque piece of writing. Like I don't know what is going on. The thoughts are flowing from one thing to another. There's no complete like idea
It
here. It's
it's the same thing here. Yeah, it's some sort of writing technique where it's the character has to have a big speech. There's a lot to explain, but you don't have any real answers. And so they just go from thing to thing to thing real fast. They make a mess of like everything in their path.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I thought
Lost has
like
done that too.
I thought that was just a David Lynch problem, you know, like oh, like when he goes for exposition, like it's just incoherent
Hmm.
nonsense. But it's like this
Hmm.
is about as impenetrable as that speech was. You
Yeah, I
know, and I'm
agree.
like, oh, wait a minute. I guess other people do this too. No, you're right. There's definitely stuff like that on Lost as well, 100%. But yeah, like it's just making me sort of appreciate that that wasn't necessarily like uniquely ridiculous in Twin Peaks. Like this does happen
Hmm.
where people just make these
Hmm.
speeches where it's like you know you
Hmm.
start with like as long you know I discovered something incredible and then it's like wait what happened you never
Yeah, yeah,
said what it
yeah.
was
Never
like
said.
I'm not
Yeah,
even
they
sure what
got
the thing was.
they got 6 topics deep in one exchange after that, and then went to, like, 5 more levels, and then came back to desire and fear, baby, just give the people what they want, right? And it's like, "Huh?" And then you feel like you went somewhere, but you
Yeah,
forgot where you started,
yeah.
and you forgot that along the way, there's all these unanswered questions.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, and just like this thing, like the key to it all, you and her. And it's like, what? Like it just feels like it comes out of nowhere. Like, you know, and this,
Yeah.
and then this thing with two Coopers. Like, you know, it's like, what?
Yeah, oh,
Like,
yeah.
how is that related? Like, do explain. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I get some threads in here, right? So, like, I get the thread about feelings, right? So, there's this thing about, like,
Yeah.
there's this thing about like
Feelings are what validate the fiction, and fiction is what controls our
yeah,
minds.
exactly. And so they manipulate the feelings and that's how they get the power. Like I kind of followed that thread, but like that's only one piece here and it doesn't connect the dots.
Mhm.
Like what does that
Yeah.
have to do with Neo and Trinity? Like they have those things, okay. Yes, but like and
Mhm, mhm.
like I want the next part, you know? Like I
And also he's also skipping the other side of the feelings, right? Because he says desire and fear, but he says, "You ever wonder why you have nightmares, why your brain tortures you? Why not dreams as well?" Like the duality of having our highest aspirations, and then maybe not getting them, right,
mhm.
generates power or something like
Yeah,
that,
yeah, yeah.
right? So it should be both things, not just like the word. I feel like that was the thing that got extra reductionist of just like we'll just be villains and be evil and you'll create more power,
Yeah,
right? Versus being nuanced and saying the more interesting the story we tell, the more power, right?
right.
Which means really high highs and really low lows.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And not just the low lows and that's all the world is, because that's not all the world is
Right. Yeah.
from our own experience. And I think that's the other thing too, with like the original Matrix, when you were watching it, and obviously when it came out, the time period when it came out, but like I feel like it made you think a lot about your actual connection to reality, right? And technology and all that stuff as you're watching the movie. Um, and I felt like this movie didn't really have that. Like there wasn't. It didn't make me feel like, oh, maybe I'm living in the Matrix. Like
Mhm.
it felt a lot more removed and like less like tangible in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah, it yeah, it definitely seemed like in the original they were trying to, you know, make you question your reality.
Hmm.
And yeah, I feel like the way this is constructed, it's like that's not going to happen.
Yeah, and so the thing I'll say about how the movie ends is I'm totally fine with like a Matrix franchise. Every 3 years we get Cheerio and Keanu Reeves. like flying in somewhere. The Matrix resuscitated, or the Matrix. It has to be an R word. The Matrix Reno. I don't know. The, the Matrix. What's the fifth Matrix movie called? Renaissance. I don't know. They go back to
Hmm.
the.
Sure, why not?
Why not? A period drama, right?
Yeah, everybody loves those these days. Come on.
Oh, imagine the modern martial arts, but in the period costuming. I
Oh
mean, come
yeah,
on,
yeah,
we already love it.
absolutely.
Um, yeah. So anyway, I'm on board. I thought the way the movie was so meta, like just like adaptation in a way where it did a great job at the meta thing, where it didn't make me hate the meta part.
Hmm.
And because it's been 20 years since the original movies, like I'm not like married to like more story is gonna ruin them or anything like that.
Right.
And so yeah, if Lana wants to like set up her favorite characters to just like have fun romps around the digital domain, and just like I mean, we know from the Animatrix and all that stuff that it's a crazy world out there, right? So there's all kinds of stories they can mine, and we're living in the era of the mega franchise. So they're telling Lord of the Rings stories. They're telling Game of Thrones is still going with more stories. Like I could see Star Wars obviously has like 20 things on at once.
Yeah.
So I do wonder if there's some sort of goal of like it's a Matrix meta franchise, you get your Matrix TV show about like it could be a cop show, it could be a lawyer show, it could be a crime show, it could be every show at
Hey,
once.
that sounds familiar.
Yeah, and it's about a group of people who crash on a mysterious island, and they wonder if reality is as it seems, or if they're in the Matrix.
But
It's
it's
like,
the Matrix show.
guys, where are we? We're in the Matrix. Yeah, exactly. I mean, come on, wouldn't that be? I mean, that the teaser writes itself. It could fit, right? Where are we? The Matrix. Boom. Come on, we're watching that and podcasting about it. Great.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, that's hard to resist.
Yeah.
Um, I have to ask you. Have you seen Keanu Reeves in like other stuff like since The Matrix, like in more recent
Let
years?
me pull up his filmography.
Like, have you seen like the John Wick movies, or I don't know exactly everything
I
he's
think
done,
it's I think
but
it's Juan Candle. Is that who you're talking about?
well, that was the original.
The Latin America version.
Yeah.
Juan Candele. um, what was the question?
Yeah, I wonder who the Chilean Keanu Reeves is.
Yeah, right. Me too. I saw the first John Wick. I haven't seen the other ones.
Okay, okay, okay. So yeah, no, something that was just striking, and I think this is just normal stuff, but it just struck me, because I watched the first movie and then I watched this like straight away, is like how much his voice has changed. Like
Mm,
his voice is like it's deeper and kind of huskier.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's very noticeably different from what I thought of as like the classic Keanu Reeves voice that I was used to from,
yeah,
basically
yeah.
from Bill and Ted through all the Matrix movies. Like he pretty much sounded like that.
Yep.
I was just wondering, like, at what point did he start sounding like this? Because it was just very like jarring to me. I had to get used to like, oh, that's actually how he sounds now? Wow.
Uh, Good question. Hey Google, when did Keanu Reeves' voice change?
Sorry, I can't answer that.
Let me see. Well, there's a YouTube video of his voice changing over time. Uh,
But
it
they made a
starts
YouTube
it
video.
starts from Point Break and goes to the Devil's Advocate to yeah, it goes to the whole thing. Wow. So we could actually I
Wow.
guess we should do a podcast on it because there's some data here to talk about. And it goes all the way up to John Wick 2, it looks like.
Okay.
So
Wow.
wow, it's a whole thing people are talking about.
Okay.
Wow, there's a
Interesting.
whole Reddit about it.
Okay, so it's not just me.
Oh look, President Biden just addressed it. He just had a presidential address about it. That one I made up.
Yikes.
That was called Two Truths and a Lie, folks.
Okay. Okay.
I have seen a lot of the stuff he's done over the years, but I've only so you
I
know.
don't think I've seen him since then. I guess was my point. Like, I don't
Okay,
think I've seen anything he's done since the Matrix movies. So it was like, yeah, it was just weird for me
I love the Scanner
coming
Dark.
back. Like Carrie and Moss, like sounded the same more or less, at least to me.
Yeah,
But yeah, like Keanu Reeves, like it was like I could still hear it, but it was a lot deeper, and I think that's just normal. Like people's voices change over the years, like it
yeah.
happens. If you watch some actor that you're used to, like having a super gruff voice, and they're like 60, and you watch them when they're 20, like they probably don't sound like that.
Hmm.
You know, that's normal, but anyway, it was just it really, yeah, it really stood out to me. Another thing like I kind of noticed about like Carrie Ann Moss is like she definitely has like what the kids might call strong Elizabeth Mitchell energy. Like there's really a Juliet quality to that character,
Yeah,
I have to say. And I feel like she kind of looks like Juliet, she kind of sounds like Juliet. I don't know, I really didn't notice it before, but
yeah. I can see
watching
it.
it this time I was like, oh my god, wow, like I could actually see,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Elizabeth Mitchell playing that character, like it would work. And I could also see Carrie Ann Moss playing Juliet. Anyway,
Hmm.
that was
That's a good yeah observation. Yeah, I can see that for sure.
yeah, yeah. There's something there. It was weird.
They both had the 1/4 pucker.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I didn't think anyone else had the 1/4 pucker. I was really shocked.
Wow. Uh, I was gonna say I love A Scanner Darkly.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm a big, big, big fan of that movie. And one of the things I
I
loved
should watch it
about
again. I watched it a long time ago. I don't remember it that well.
one of the things I loved about Matrix 4 was Keanu Reeves' acting. I thought he did a great job, especially those early scenes when he's Thomas Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he did a really, 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 really great job. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like really, really good. And he reminded me a lot of what he did in A Scanner Darkly,
Mm-hmm.
which I liked a lot as well.
Yeah.
And so that's another thing I liked about the movie was they gave Neo. I like that there were there was like this sort of price he paid for his sacrifice, right? So even though
Mm-hmm.
he didn't well, he died, but I guess they brought him back or whatever, but
But
resurrected
in a
him.
way, he's been living in this like flash sideways
Yeah.
purgatory type
Yeah,
world
he's
for
been in prison
some
and
amount of time.
but
Like,
not like living it up, but like actually having a really hard time with things.
yeah,
You know, and sort of paying the price for that I thought was interesting.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree. I agree.
But I agree with what you said before about overall, like not a lot of interesting new characters. I did like Bugs. I like that actress. I've seen
Mhm.
her in a couple other things. So when she showed up, I was like, "Oh, you're good." Um,
Yeah, yeah. No, I think she was probably the best of the new ones, but I
mhm.
did have like a little bit of a, sorry to say, Picard vibe with these people, or just like
Yeah.
weird new people, and like there's not time. I don't know. It's weird because like a part of it maybe is just nostalgia, like because there isn't actually a lot of time spent with the crew in the original either. So
Mhm.
it's not like they're like super developed or anything. But yeah, just I don't know. A lot of them just sort of felt like placeholder characters, like
Hmm.
just kind of there to like make the thing function.
Yeah.
Um,
They felt like
and
characters, like, if I read the comic, they'd be really interesting. Like, they felt like there was a
yeah,
lot of attention to detail with them that we didn't get to see. And, you know,
yeah,
we got a bit of that with the other ma the some of the Matrix characters in the originals too, like, Switch and APOC. Uh,
yeah,
you could tell there was more to deal with those characters than they had time for.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and there were definitely some good moments with the crew and stuff in the original, and
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like in a way they didn't have time for that. Or there was a lot, just there was
Yep.
more to get to in a way than the
Yep.
original movie. So there was like less downtime, less of time to go to sleep, if you will.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, I didn't sleep through this one. No time.
Gotta get to those things. Yeah, it covers a lot of territory, and so yeah. I mean, it really wasn't bad. It wasn't even nearly as bad as Picard. Clearly, it was just yeah. There was just this feeling of like these weird people, and they're just kind of hanging around, and with
Mhm.
our old characters.
Yep. Yeah, I know what you mean.
But in a way, it's inevitable with the way the story is written. Like they're gonna have to have some characters like that. Like if they really went all the way and did 20 years later and brought back everybody, you know,
Mhm.
that would have been a different movie
Yeah.
completely.
One
And
of the things I kinda wish, but, this movie wasn't a is about what it's about, right? But what I wish it was about was
mhm.
a second chance at, like, saving humanity. Is that a thing we still wanna do? Do? Because nobody was talking about it.
Yeah, they
Uh
weren't really concerned with that, interestingly.
Yeah, so I'm curious if there's another movie, are we like, okay, how do we get the people out of the Matrix? How to make the Matrix better? What I because I really like the world, in general. So there's a lot of story there. So I'm curious, where they would go to next. You've got Neo and Trinity. I guess they can do whatever they want in the Matrix. You've still got the analyst around, right? And what happened to Smith? Did he die? I forgot now.
And this,
What'd you say?
in this,
Yeah.
uh, he's still there, right? He didn't die, did he? I thought he was just hanging out. I didn't think he died. He
No, wait.
was out at the end, right?
He's just hanging out.
Yeah, I thought he's just there
Wait, he's at
chilling.
the end. Okay, yeah, he shows up. He blows away the analyst, which doesn't do much, but okay. Here, our unexpected alliance ends. Anyone could have been you. I've always, I've always been me. What? Oh, I didn't understand this. I didn't understand this. This is why I didn't know what happened to him because he morphs into another person and they don't talk about him anymore. Did you catch
Yeah.
that?
He morphs into another person.
Yeah.
Oh, right. I vaguely remember that.
Because there's some weird joke here where he's like, anyone could have been you, but I've always been me, and then he turns into somebody else. And I get that
Okay.
somehow that's ironic, but I don't know why he turned into somebody else.
Whereas I've always been anyone.
Oh, is that what he said? I've always been anyone?
That's what the transcript says.
I was just looking at it. What is it? Okay, does it say like why he turned into another person?
No.
Because he says what just happened, so it's not like he did he try to turn into the guy on purpose?
I would assume.
But then when he does, he says what just happened. Anyone could have been you.
I guess it's like he's going back
That's
into
always
hiding like he was
anyone.
before.
Oh, this is okay. This is this guy saying what happened. Okay, not good.
Yeah,
I thought okay, got it. Yikes! So he just goes away. He just slinks away
yeah,
like a little snake, like a rat in the night.
exactly, exactly.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I think he's still around, just not
So
yeah
that just means
occupied.
like he'll just show up. He'll just show up in movies. You know, he'll be
Yep,
anybody, and
it
that'll
can
be
be
his
anyone.
gimmick. He'll be his
That's
gimmick.
the point.
He's the Deus Ex Smithina, and he'll show up and like help somebody out. Maybe this time he will. Maybe this time he won't. He'll be like Q. He'll be
Yeah,
like trickster.
a lot like you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
Interesting. All right. Well, like I said, overall, I have a lot of thoughts about this movie, but I don't know how to summarize it because it's such a weird. It doesn't feel. I feel like there's certain things we experience in life that I think you put in one or two buckets. The buckets being proof that we live in a simulation, and disproof we live in a simulation. And I feel like the existence of this movie goes in the first bucket, proof we live in a simulation, because it's absolutely bonkers this movie exists. It's absolutely bonkers what it is and what it's about. Come on, dude. Like seriously, like you know what I mean? Like, isn't this kind of ridiculous? It's the same ridiculous like Twin Peaks season 3, 25 years later to the day. Like, really? Is that
Yeah,
what we're gonna do here? Okay. I feel like sometimes the simulation's too obvious, because we don't believe it. Well, you know what I mean? It's like, what can I get
mhm.
away with? And I feel like, yeah, it's crazy. Lana's like, I miss my friends. I'm gonna write a Matrix movie. Um, and this is what we get, and it's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. I agree. I definitely didn't expect it. It didn't seem. I mean, it just didn't seem likely, given what happened before. But yeah, I mean, I think for this kind of thing, it's it definitely it could have been a lot worse or done stuff that was a lot less interesting. Um, it's not fully successful, but there are definitely parts of it that are pretty interesting and I will fully support the first like 20-30 minutes. I really enjoyed all that like weird like meta commentary stuff. I thought that was a lot of fun.
Hmm.
And like after just watching the first movie, like it was the perfect time to see that stuff because I fully understood what they were
Yeah,
going for.
yeah.
You know, like if I hadn't seen it for 20 years, some of that stuff would have gone over my head. I think.
If you like that, you should go watch Terminator 1 and 2, and then watch Terminator Genesis.
Okay.
I feel like
Yeah.
it's a very similar thing.
Interesting. Yeah, I had no idea
Yeah.
that there was anything like that in the Terminator world.
Hmm.
Like, yeah. That's why I had no interest. I just figured they were still like, robots shooting each other. I don't know.
Oh, the robots shoot each other.
Okay.
We want to have fun.
Okay.
I
Alright.
mean, we got to watch a movie.
Okay, but they do some kind of variation on that. Yeah, I probably would enjoy that. I
Yeah,
mean, I
in
I I, I do like those
the
old
yeah,
Terminator ones. They're
because of
pretty
some
good.
time travel shenanigans in Genesis, they revisit some scenes from the originals in a very compelling way.
Ah,
And
okay.
if you familiarize yourself with the originals, which the first two movies are great, and then yeah, when you watch Genesis and
Yeah.
they come back to those things, it's really really enjoyable. So the same
Wow.
way when you're like, oh, here's Trinity's fight, and this is how it went. yeah, it's a little different here, and I remember how I went here, like that kind of
Hmm.
thing. Like, yeah, it's a very similar dynamic. And,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
Genesis is it's not far off in the way this movie is laid out. Genesis is not far off from being like, I see what you guys did here. You didn't need to do this, but I see what you did. It's enjoyable. It doesn't ruin what came before. Yeah,
Hmm.
I think it's a good one to check out for this kind of like, how do you do a sequel in an interesting way?
Hmm. Okay.
All right. Anything else? I don't think we had much to say about this movie.
No, no. This is very, very little talking. I don't
Mhm,
know.
mhm.
I don't know what happened to the time, but I didn't have much to say, and you had even less. So I don't know what we're doing here.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, thanks everybody
Thanks for
for
listening.
listening to the Matrix
Matrix
Resurrection.
Cast and Matrix Resurrections in theaters now. Look at this. Look at us covering a new thing,
Yeah.
like right when it's
Right
out.
when it's
This was
out.
released like a mere week plus some days ago.
Yeah.
I mean, can you believe
You
it?
can't
I
get any more
can't.
immediate than that. Well, let us know what you thought about Matrix
Ooh,
Resurrections.
ooh. Do tell.
Dude, that
Comments.
juicy gossip. Leave your juicy gossip below. Um, Juicy gossip or your thoughts about the film, and maybe they're the same. They could be the
Or
same.
both, exactly. It's better if it's
It's
both.
better if it's both. Is some of the gossip we just got messages. Okay. Thanks everybody. Till next time.
All right. Bye, everybody.